The weather here at Talladega, well, it's rather variable. We had heavy rain overnight. It showered and sprinkled this morning, but skies are partly sunny right now. It will be quite hot if the sun stays out. The temperatures have been near or just slightly above 90 degrees for the past few days. The field begins to move out onto the 2.66-mile racetrack here at Talladega. They'll take a couple of warm-up laps before they get the green flag. The banking in turns 2 and 3, 33 degrees, the same in turns 3 and 4. The tri-oval is 18 degrees of banking. And now the starting lineup for the 18th annual Winston 500. On the front row with a new qualifying record of 212.809 in the Coors Belling Ford, Bill Elliott, number 9. Outside of row number 1 will be the Miller American Buick number 22, driven by Bobby Allison from nearby Hueytown, Alabama. His son will start inside second row, Davey Allison in the number 28 Haviland Ford. And outside of row number 2 will be Darrell Waltrip, qualifying at 210.471 in the Tide Exxon Chevrolet. Going in the third row, Dale Earnhardt in number 3, the Wrangler GM Goodwrench Chevrolet. Outside of row number 3 will be car number 21, the Citgo Ford, driven by Kyle Petty. Going in row number 4, Sterling Marlin in the number 44 Piedmont Airlines Oldsmobile. Alongside will be the Budweiser Kentucky Fried Chevrolet number 11, driven by Terry Labonte. In the fifth row, Phil Parsons in the Fast Fair Copenhagen Oldsmobile number 55. Outside of the fifth row will be Lake Speed in number 83, the Wins Kmart Friction Proving Oldsmobile. Going in row number 6 will be Jeff Bodine. In car number 5, the Levi Garrett Exxon Chevrolet. Buddy Baker will start alongside Jeff in number 8, the Crisco Bullfrog Knits Oldsmobile. In the 7th row, Ron Bouchard in car number 1, the Bullseye Barbecue Sauce Buick. And outside of him will be Rusty Wallace in the Kodak Pontiac car number 27. In the 8th row, it'll be number 90, the Red Baron Frozen Pizza Ford, driven by Ken Schrader, and Bobby Hillen Jr. in the number 8 Miller American Buick. In the 9th row, number 15, the Motorcraft Ford, driven by Ricky Rudd, and the number 29 Hardee's Oldsmobile, driven by Cale Yarborough. Then in the 10th row, it'll be Morgan Shepherd in the Quaker State Buick number 26, and Benny Parsons in the Folgers Exxon Chevrolet number 35. The rest of the starting lineup will be Neil Bonnet in car number 75 and Greg Saxon 50 in row 11. The 12th row has Joe Ruttman and Michael Waltrip. In the 13th row, Richard Petty and Harry Gant. Going in row number 14, Rick Wilson and Alan Kulwicki. Row 15 consists of Ken Reagan and Ed Pym. The 16th row, Chet Phillip and Connie Saylor. In row number 17, Mark Stahl and Eddie Bierschwal. In row number 18, Dave Marcus and Slick Johnson. In the 19th row, Phil Barkdahl and Dale Jarrett. In row number 20, Rick Knoop and Steve Chrisman. And starting 41st, the provisional starter, Jimmy Means in car number 52. We have a couple of in-car cameras for you today. Hardee's in-car camera, first of all, in the Rick Wilson Kodak car.
If you've never traveled over 120 miles per hour in a car, and few of us have, wait till you travel at over 200 miles per hour. It is a very special sight.
And the Hardee's in-car camera being carried by, of course, Cale Yarborough. As the cars now move down the backstretch, they're just about at the end of the backstretch, setting into turn number 3.
Bob, many of us see a lot of motor races a year. You think of Le Mans, Nürburgring, MIS, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Daytona, and Talladega. All very special, emotional, heart-stopping speeds. This is a special place, and the start of a race here is a special moment.
You need only look at the grandstands and the infield to get an idea of how important this race is. The attendance here, probably over 100,000, and each of them are now on their feet, ready for the start of this 188-lap, 500-mile Winston 500 from the world's longest and fastest racetrack, Talladega, Alabama. They come through the tri-oval. The pace car pulls off. The crowd now begins to cheer as Bill Elliott and Bobby Allison come down through the 18 degrees of banking in the tri-oval, looking for the green flag that will start this event. Let's watch them. If everything looks good, the green flag will go out. There it is, the acceleration. The pace picks up, and the Winston 500 is underway. Side by side racing through turns number 1 and 2. Bill Elliott has grabbed the lead. Bobby Allison, who started second, is dropping back quickly. Allison will lead them, rather Davey Allison will jump into second position and chase Bill Elliott down the backstretch. And here comes Sterling Marlin. Look at him move on the inside inside the racetrack, passing Bobby Allison and going to third.
The world's biggest, longest, and fastest trophy dash, side by side, 2, 3, and 4 abreast around 2.66 miles of Talladega.
The first lap about to be completed. Bill Elliott will lead it, followed by Davey Allison. Then Sterling Marlin in third. Running in fourth is Allison. Then Darrell Waltrip, Dale Earnhardt, and Terry Labonte as they head to number 1 again.
Boy, I must tell all of you, racing on TV is the best because you can get right inside the cockpit. You can see all the way around. You don't miss any of the action. But watching a race in person at Talladega, it's got to be a mind-boggling and a heart-hugging experience. It is tremendous.
Darrell Waltrip in the Tide machine number 17 had a good qualifying effort. He's running fourth right now and may certainly be a contender in this event. The crowd is still cheering as the field comes down through the tri-oval once again. They continue to run in the same order, though. It's going to be Bill Elliott leading Davey Allison, and then Bobby Allison, followed by Waltrip, Labonte, Blake Speed, and Jeff Bodine, then Dale Earnhardt. The pace is 209.82 miles an hour.
Much faster, I think, than anybody anticipated. 209 miles per hour. Automatically, right away, the strategy begins to unfold. Bill Elliott is making everybody, including Cale Yarborough, whom you're riding with right now, go faster than they wanted to do. Nobody really wanted to go 209 miles an hour.
We're inside Cale Yarborough's car. He's following Kyle Petty. On some of our in-car cameras, as we watch Kyle Petty going to the inside of Ron Bouchard, you will hear the driver on and off the accelerator. Not here at Talladega. They're on it all the way around, and Petty moves around Ron Bouchard.
Ron Bouchard in Haas Ellington's Bullseye, sponsored number 1, running up there in the top 15. We might talk a little bit about some of the favorites, among which is not Cale Yarborough as far as today's race goes. A lot of people were looking toward Buddy Baker. Some people felt that Davey Allison had a real chance. Rusty Wallace was another name that was mentioned, and of course, Dale Earnhardt and Bill Elliott.
Here are the leaders. It's still Bill Elliott, and the Allisons are going for second position. The yellow flag is out. Yellow on the racetrack. We have a car smoking badly coming out of the corner number 4. Will be pulling into the pit area, and so this is going to be a slow lap.
Chet Phillip.
In the number 81 car, Chet Phillip has mechanical problems and brings out our first caution period of the afternoon.
Chet Phillip, the former Indianapolis car driver, he has qualified for 2 Indianapolis 500s, and of course he's racing out of the Buddy Arrington Potter stables in 1987.
We completed 4 laps before we had our first caution period, but it's only for a mechanical problem and possible oil on the racetrack. The track crews will be checking it while we are under this yellow flag. Bill Elliott has led all the way. Running second is Davey Allison, and third is father Bobby Allison. We'll be back with more from the Winston 500 at Talladega. The first caution period of the afternoon here at Talladega. The reason the number 81 car at Chet Phillip was smoking badly as it came into the pit area, and the track crews wanted to check for any oil out there. Bobby Allison in number 22 Miller American Buick is running third right behind his son Davey.
Well, Bobby Allison won this race a year ago, and he's had one of the better seats of watching the streaking Davey Allison, his son, and Bill Elliott. Bobby, are you surprised at the pace that Elliott is setting?
Not really, Larry. We saw him run awful good in practice, and we really expected to see him run very fast.
Bobby, is one of the favorites. At this point, do you just run your own race, and whatever Davey and Dale or Davey and Bill want to do, just leave them go?
Roger, I don't change my strategy any. I just go ahead and run our own race, especially this early.
How about your car? Is it tight? Is it loose? Does the car feel real good?
Right now, the Miller American Buick feels mighty good to me.
Okay, Bobby, good luck to you.
Lap number 6 has been completed. This is the second lap under caution. The field now in single file formation. We want to get our commercial breaks in here while there is no racing on the track so we can bring you the real excitement from here at Talladega. So we'll be right back after these messages. A big auto racing doubleheader on ESPN after our Winston 500 here today. The San Marino Grand Prix Formula One race will be presented here on ESPN. We're still under caution because of a mechanical problem developing on the Chet Phillip car. They're checking the track for oil and other possible moisture. Well, Buddy Baker is currently running in 9th position in the Crisco car. He has been very successful here at Talladega. We asked him if there is something special about it.
We understand that the race engine is even quicker than the qualifying engine.
Well, you know, qualifying's one thing, racing's a whole different story, and we have a very good engine that we have for race day, and the car is, I'm able to stay right around the bottom of the racetrack, which is the quickest. Irregardless of what you see during the race, we'll probably be all over the place, but the real quick way around is a short way around, and that's the bottom. So I'm able to do that right now, and I was in practice with Bill Elliott just a few minutes ago, and I was able to pull right up under him and pass him. I don't think I've seen that in a while down here, but the car really does feel good, and it'll take, you know, the team effort, the good pit stops and the whole bit, but we're running as well as we did in Daytona, and we felt we had a real good shot down there, and it's going to be fun to race hard all day.
And so perhaps the secret to success here at Talladega is running the bottom line. At least that's what Buddy Baker feels. There's the leader, Bill Elliott. As we remain under caution, Davey Allison is running second, followed by Bobby Allison in third. Running in 4th position is Darrell Waltrip in car 17, followed by Terry Labonte in Junior Johnson's car. Then the hot guy, Dale Earnhardt. Lake Speed has shown well in the early going. He's followed by Jeff Bodine, and then Buddy Baker and Sterling Marlin. Now we'll see if we get a restart here. Yes, the pace car does pull off of the racetrack, so the pace begins to quicken now again as Bill Elliott smashes the throttle and prepares to take the green flag for resumption of this 188 lap event. This will complete lap number 8, and the green flag comes out once again.
Jump by Phil Parsons. That may well be a judgment call. Phil Parsons is going to the lead. The green flags seem to be fluttering as Phil dropped down low, past several cars, and now challenges Bill Elliott. He got around 6 cars as the green fluttered.
Now he begins to settle alongside Darrell Waltrip, and he doesn't have anybody to draft with, so he's backing up just a little bit. Now being passed by Dale Earnhardt as Dale goes to the high side of the racetrack, and already Phil Parsons has moved back to 6th position. So the lead continues to be held now by Bill Elliott, and Davey Allison second with Darrell Waltrip third, then Terry Labonte and Dale Earnhardt.
There is much talk these days about how the draft has changed, that you don't have that tornado-like draft that you used to have on these big racetracks, but there was an example right there that if nobody helps you, if nobody goes with you, and there are 4 or 5 cars that are basically against you as you're trying to make a pass, the draft does have an effect. Phil had the momentum going around turn 1 and 2, but when he got on the backstretch, all the hot dogs stayed in line and said, "Sorry, Phil, we don't want you up here." Nobody let him in line, and they all passed by.
Well, the question in our mind was, did Phil Parsons jump the green flag? Did he begin passing cars before the green actually came out? The NASCAR officials say no, he did not, so everything is okay with Phil Parsons. Well, out in front, a couple of Fords, Bill Elliott and Davey Allison. What are the drivers saying, Larry, about the possible advantage of the Fords here at Talladega?
Well, the drivers, all those without Fords, would like to say that Fords have a tremendous advantage. One of the more interesting quotes in regards to a response to that was Alan Kawicki saying, "I don't think that a Ford helped me very much when I won my short track pole, but this is a big track." The drivers who don't have them say, yes, there is an advantage. I don't think the advantage is as much as it once was, say, the beginning of 1985 or throughout the 1985 season. Terry Labonte making a move, going underneath Darrell Waltrip. Those are 2 non-Fords. But I do believe on the super speedways, the Ford lines are just a tad better at this point. At this moment, could change in a month in the General Motors car.
Well, Terry Labonte is certainly showing some muscle here in the early going of this race. He started 8th and has already moved up to 3rd position as the battle for 4th now is between Bobby Allison and Darrell Waltrip, and Waltrip being followed closely by Dale Earnhardt. as the first three have pulled out to a few car lengths advantage.
If you're a Winston Cup regular, as we go back inside of Cale Yarborough's car, look at him following Rick Wilson on the left. Oh, coming very close to Rusty Wallace, and they stay together, but nobody panics. Everybody stays on a straight line, and no problem. That was, by the way, at about 205 miles an hour. Whew, I guess that's what you call confidence in your fellow man. I was about to say that if you've noticed, Waltrip is running up front. Yeah, he's had a good week.
Cale Yarborough is running in 17th, so the guys ahead of him are battling for 15th position, and Jeff Bodine has come in for an unscheduled pit stop.
Jeff Bodine, who seemingly had the race won at Martinsville on a very short track a week ago when he was involved in a very minor altercation with Kyle Petty. He said that he did not think it was either one of their faults. He lost that race, and he had great hopes for today. Dick Bergen is down there now.
Well, the hood is up on Jeff Bodine's car. This is not an easy situation, very obviously. One of the things that many of the mechanics are going to be watching here this afternoon, Bob and Larry, is the weather. The weather has been changing all day long. Most of the heat, most of the temperatures these guys have practiced at, qualified at, run at, have been in the 80s and the 90s. This morning, it was well into the 60s here. Now, that changes the way the cars run, changes the whole setup situation. So because they don't really know what it's supposed to do this afternoon, some of the forecasts say showers, some say nice, some say cool, some say warm. Just about everybody has taken a conservative approach in setup. Right now, we're about to get some overcast. And meanwhile, up pit road is my colleague Jerry Punch.
Well, Jeff Bodine's car, the Levi Garrett Chevrolet, being pushed back to the garage area. The word, the engine came unglued in the car. He will exit here. They're going to try to take a little look at it back here to see if there's something they can possibly fix, but I think maybe the engine may be gone.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. 208.13 is the pace being set here in the Winston 500 as, again, we see the first three cars pulling away from the rest of the field. And those three are Bill Elliott, Davey Allison, and the Chevrolet of Terry Labonte.
Remember that Terry Labonte has a cracked shoulder blade. Now, it's come a long ways in the last 3 or 4 weeks, and in talking with Terry before this race began, we're looking at Davey Allison on the right, the leader Bill Elliott on the left. That's where he's been since the green flag dropped. Labonte said this will be a good racetrack to drive injured. That because the speeds are so high, you glide around there. There's almost as much intellect that is involved as muscle running here at Talladega, and this is one of Terry Labonte's strongest performances. He really has not been in a position late in the race to win an event so far in 1987. A lot of people thought that he would be, and Labonte begins to make a move. He looks to the inside of Davey Allison. He glides past casually and easily, and Terry Labonte takes the runner-up spot as Jerry Punch has moved over and is ready to talk to Jeff Bodine.
Well, a disappointed Jeff Bodine still sitting inside the Chevrolet trying to get the cool suit off. Jeffrey, a short afternoon. What happened out there?
I don't even think it got started. I really don't know. Something went wrong in the engine. Acted like a bearing was tightening up or something, but I tell you, the car was handling so good. Rick, I'm sorry, we're trying. We're going to get out of this bad luck streak someday, but it was running and handling so good. I really felt like we had a good chance at winning or finishing good here anyway, but I don't know what's wrong. We keep trying, working hard, running good, but we'll get it all together one of these days.
Well, Jeff Bodine referring to Rick Hendrick, his car owner, who's watching us on ESPN today. Bodine, the second car to exit here at Talladega.
Jeff, of course, one of our guests as we presented a special Speed Week last Friday night. He and Bill Elliott joined us, and Jeff had high hopes of doing well in this race, but unfortunately it's over already for Jeff Bodine. But it's not over for about 39 other drivers, being led at this point by Bill Elliott, then Terry Labonte, and then Davey Allison. A new track record for attendance, 135,000 on hand here today for the Winston 500. (18 of 188 laps completed, and Bill Elliott is the leader. Terry Labonte second, followed by Davey, Bobby, and Dale Earnhardt. Well, exciting NHL hockey tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, Toronto. And we have a lead change here as Terry Labonte has passed Bill Elliott. So exciting hockey at 8 o'clock tonight here on ESPN. The Stanley Cup playoffs continue.
Bob, I think that may be the first time in 1987 that Terry Labonte has taken the lead under a green flag conditions. That's the first time any of us can remember, and Labonte is opening up distance. between himself and Bill Elliott. Labonte has been moving up ever so slowly. It happens in most instances gradually here at Talladega. You can see his best 87 finish was a 4th earlier this year. But Terry Labonte, we thought that there were some concerned looks in the Junior Grant Johnson garage area, crew chief Jeff Hammond, throughout the week, but they have been a quiet but steady 210 runner all week long. And in the race, at least in the early stages here, Terry Labonte looks to be one of the strongest.
Back in the pack, meanwhile, one of the best battles going on right now is between Buddy Baker and Bobby Allison, as they are going for that 4th position. Bobby Allison has it, but Buddy Baker has been challenging him for several laps now, and you can see how Buddy is running that low line, just as he explained a little bit earlier to us. That's where he likes to be, because simply that's the fastest way around Talladega.
Baker has been the cream in recent laps, meaning he started in 7th about 4 laps ago, and he's been steadily rising. He just passed Dale Earnhardt about a lap ago. Bobby Allison is next up. Son Davey should be next. You can see Earnhardt, the yellow car, still in the picture. But Buddy Baker, who has a lot of sentiment among veteran observers, as one of the real threats.
Oh, we have a problem.
Allison is blowing a tire.
Bobby Allison with a horrible crash here on the front stretch. It has torn out a complete section of protective railing separating it. Alan Kulwicki becomes involved.
Debris and is collecting other cars. There was a lot of debris in the front stretch. Kulwicki was involved. Richard Petty, I think, is another one of the cars. Lots of debris on the front stretch. Now, Bobby's car, to me, appeared to stay together quite well. He didn't get up into the fencing, but not into the stands.
And it was close, though. He has torn out a whole large area of guardrail. There it is, protecting the crowd from the racetrack, and he came very, very close to going into the stands. The car became airborne and went flying literally into that wall and catch fencing, but fortunately it did stay onto the racetrack. Bobby Allison is moving around in the race car, and that is certainly good news for us, but he has to be quite shaken after a tremendous crash. The red flag has been brought out, and quite frankly, Larry, I think we're going to have to be red for quite a while, because we cannot race with that protective fencing in the shape that it's in. It's just not safe for the spectators.
It's pretty obvious why it was there, happening right underneath Harold Kinder. It wasn't the fence that caught him, but they have built the cement wall here at Talladega just a little taller
Bobby's
than most
out.
racetracks. There's Bobby getting out of the car. I told you that Bobby's car, though, was heavily damaged. It did stay together. The integrity of the roll cage is intact. The crowd is giving Bobby a very warm welcome out of that machine, but the car lived up to NASCAR standards.
Larry, I think a tire blew. I think I saw a tire coming apart while he was right here in the tri-oval, nearing the starting line.
Right rear, it begins to shred, and the car goes out of control. You're at 210 miles an hour. You can see the right rear going. You see the debris there on the left-hand side of your screen. Earnhardt avoids Bobby. The car goes backwards. The aerodynamics get underneath the car, and Allison gets up into the fence. The aerodynamics lifted the car. They're not built to go backwards. Right underneath Harold Kinder. Harold, he stayed in there. Boy, I'll tell you, talk about a trooper. Kinder is right there. He's got the yellow flag out right away. That is a veteran, competent flagman. Here comes the rest of the field down. They've decelerated to maybe 180 miles an hour, but all the debris, there's Petty, there's Kulwicki spinning. There's just nowhere for many of these drivers to go, because there's so much of what was left over from the initial impact on the front stretch, and there was just nowhere to go.
And tires began to explode too as they ran over debris caused by the Allison crash. Well, it's very rare that you see that catch fencing do its job, but it sure did its job here at Talladega today. As if it hadn't been there, or if it had not been as strong as it was, Bobby Allison's car would very clearly have gone into the grandstand right below us here in the broadcast booth. There's the tire going.
Here's another angle of it, and we'll just let you watch it because we've covered it well.
There goes Darrell Waltrip going by without becoming involved in it, but as I said, as the cars came down now, they were running over the debris of the Allison car, and tires were blowing, and therefore they became involved in the crash. There's Petty, Alan Kulwicki, Phil Parsons made contact with the Bobby Allison car. Back live at Talladega, Alabama, and minutes away from the resumption of the Winston 500. Let's get a report from Jerry in the pit area, who I believe is in the Richard Petty pit. Jerry?
While Richard is strapped in the car, they're getting ready for the STP crew to go back to work as soon as they get the word from the NASCAR officials. Now, when Richard spun, he tore the left rear tire apart. As you see, this is what's left of the core of the tire being torn apart. No defect from the Goodyear tire, simply spinning at 200 miles per hour will tear it apart. And here is the inner liner on the tire still up. You see some body damage on the Petty car. They're going to jack it up, change the left rear tire, try to get him back out. They're going to have about a minute to work on the car here in the pits while the cars fire and warm up out on the track. So that's the story from Richard Petty's pit. Let's go to Dick Berggren.
Well, Jerry, I'm in the pit area where the leaders are going to be coming in very shortly, and it seems as if most everybody down pit road here is planning to come in, take a load of fuel on, take 4 tires as well. The Labonte pit, however, has got an interesting situation. They have just done some calculations, and they've decided, by golly, they have been in the lead at Talladega longer than any car in the history of Talladega.
Absolutely right. You know that, Bob? Absolutely. You're right.
It's a bright, sunshiny day right now. There was some concern a couple of hours ago that some rain might be moving in before we could get this race concluded. But right now the weather looks pretty good, and it is a lot cooler than it has been the past couple of days. Not a lot cooler, but a little bit cooler than the 90 degrees that we have had here on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Sorry to interrupt, Bob. They've allowed the crews to start repairing the cars sitting along pit road, so I don't know exactly what the timing on the ruling is here, but obviously somebody has given them the go-ahead. We haven't fired the cars off yet, but repair work is being done on Michael Waltrip, Richard Petty, and they hoped that Phil Parsons' car might well be in a position where it might get repaired.
Well, some of the engines had started, but NASCAR had not given the official word, so those that had started were forced to turn off their engines. Now the word has been given, and the machines begin to fire alive here on the Tri-Oval after more than 2 hours and 25 minutes of red time. There goes Richard Petty out of the pits. He's going to be allowed to encircle the entire track and catch up with the rear of the field. All 3 cars that were in the pit area will be allowed to do that, and those 3 are Richard Petty, Michael Waltrip, and Phil Parsons. And Petty is already into turn number 2. Here comes Michael Waltrip out of the pits. He's also going to be doing the same thing. As for Phil Parsons, I'm not so sure that that car is going to be able to resume competition because it was pretty heavily damaged.
Now what they are doing, they are keeping everybody on the same lap. Lake Speed, first in line, is being held up because in the confusion, Lake ended up being deposited in front of Terry Labonte. But as we have seen a couple of times, Lake is running in the top 10. That's why Lake, and we just went to the yellow flag. That's why Lake is being held up. He'll fall back in line in 9th position.
For all practical purposes, 2 hours and 26 minutes of red. We are now under yellow, and the first couple of laps will be run under yellow so that everybody can come in and make an assessment of the damage or any needed repairs on their race cars, because in addition to a safe racetrack, we want safe race cars out there. Petty, meanwhile, is now coming into the pit area, as is Michael Waltrip, so they are back on the same lap with everybody else.
Now we anticipate Darrell Waltrip certainly to be one of the key players coming around. He'll be replacing that broken windshield. By the way, Bob, you saw that report from Jerry Punch a little earlier, and the name of the company that sends out the glass, the specialized glass for these Winston Cup stock cars, comes from Toledo, Ohio, famous for a couple of other things, the glass center of the world, and isn't that the home of a well-known automobile racing announcer?
No, I'm from Eastern Indiana. Why? Yeah, you
Glass center of the world, Toledo, Ohio. It's been that way for a long time. Libby Owens Ford, one of the prominent companies, and they supply the windshields for the Winston Cup cars.
Field on the backstretch, now entering turn number 3 under caution. Petty has made repairs and is pulling back out onto the racetrack. Michael Waltrip continuing to sit in the pit area as we watch the field under caution proceed through turns 3 and 4.
In a situation like this, without question, the prudent thing to do is what NASCAR is doing, and that is to allow everybody an opportunity to come into the pits. This race will not go green until everybody has had a fair opportunity to make whatever changes or adjustments they need or wish to make at this point. Now, that is not to say they're going to delay this race if somebody takes 10 minutes, but a reasonable time would be up to 3 or 4 minutes, maybe the equivalent of 4 or 5 yellow flag laps. And I would not at all be surprised to see them wait and have everybody get out there and take 1 or 2 yellow laps before they actually drop the green flag. And Dick Bergen is down there with the latest update on what's happening.
And what's happening, Larry, is everybody is in the pits. Just about every race car here is, just about everybody here is in the pits right now. Labonte is in the process of a 4-tire change. Right in front of him, Bill Elliott is in the process of a 4-tire change. We're going to watch and see which one of those 2 guys gets out first, because whichever one it is may well be able to pick up the lead. Down pit road, Jerry Punch.
Well, what you're watching is a high-speed windshield change. That's Jeff Chandler and Eddie Dickerson changing the windshield. Eddie Jones at the left front of the car, the right front of the car, changing, working on some of that sheet metal damage. Elliott, the first car down pit road. Good pit stop for Elliott. Meanwhile, the windshield change continues here in the tied pits. They have the old windshield out. They are putting the new one in. Chandler and Dickerson, the 2 guys working on the windshield. The right front of the car has Eddie Jones working on some sheet metal damage. A tire was rubbing in the right front. Beneath the front of the car, the crew chief, Waddell Wilson, trying to clean up the air dam that's been bent. 3 different teams working to try to make repairs on the tied Chevrolet for Darrell Waltrip.
Most everybody else is roaring out of the pit area and falling in line. Darrell's repairs are still going on as the crew puts that duct tape and tries to seal the windshield.
Bob, his situation is a little more serious than the one that we created in our exhibition that we showed you a couple moments ago. He had damage to the molding around the front windshield, so that's why this has taken a little longer than the 30 or 40 seconds that Barry Dotson and the Kodiak crew pulled off for us yesterday afternoon.
The pace car is already in turn number 4. Now Darrell Waltrip begins to move out, so he's going to stay on the same lap after a repaired windshield and other repairs made on that number 17 tied car.
Alan Kowicki is also making his way out. I thought that car might have been crashed, too serious to repair, but Kowicki went by here seemingly in normal fashion. Rusty Wallace is another one of the late exiters from the pit area here on this elongated yellow flag, as is Sterling Marlin. So the standings are really going to be scrambled.
You know, Sterling was the last one to go out of the pit area. We remained under caution, but now the laps are counting, and this will be lap number 25 that is completed. Field still under yellow, but in just a lap or so, we will be back to green and resume this Winston 500. We're glad you could stay with us, and we'll be back right after this. We're inside the car of Rick Wilson, the Kodak machine, and we're getting some great pictures from that as he is behind Kyle Petty. And we will go green in one more lap after this one. Several cars still making pit stops and going back out onto the racetrack. Rusty Wallace has been in again, and the field comes through the tri-oval now, and when they cross the line, they'll be given the one more lap sign.
That's Kyle Petty right up ahead. This is coming off of turn number 4. You see the entrance to the pits there on the left. They are now approaching the tri-oval. There's the reverse shot of what you just saw from the track level inside of the Kodak machine. By the way, we lost 2 of our in-car radios in that massive crash. Bobby Allison and Cale Yarborough would have been assisting us in this broadcast today, but they were both knocked out, needless to say, in that crash as they exited the tri-oval.
3 cars were knocked out in the crash. Bobby Allison, also Cale Yarborough, and Ron Bouchard dropping out earlier, both with engine problems. The number 81 car of Chet Phillip and Jeff Bodine. But everybody else is still out there and about to resume competition, and there is Benny Parsons' machine.
Under normal circumstances, the moment of a pit stop here at Talladega is after about 30 or 31 laps. We obviously stopped on lap 22. Everybody came in on the equivalent of lap 23, so that just kind of moves the window for the pit stops up about 6 or 7 laps, but everybody is, of course, on the same rhythm.
The official word from NASCAR, 2 hours, 38 minutes, 14 seconds worth of red. And there is the Alan Kowicki crew doing some repairs to Alan's car. Let's go down to the pit area.
Alan Kowicki, Xerox Ford, moving down pit road now, gentlemen. They came in under the caution here for a lengthy stop. They had some sheet metal damage on the right front of the car. Apparently very minimal damage. They cut away some of the sheet metal so the tire would not rub. Alan gave him the high sign. Apparently everything repaired with his car. Hopefully he can go back to full speed competition.
And hopefully we can get some competition in here. We certainly don't want to see any more accidents like we saw yesterday and today. The Bobby Allison crash, a very frightening one, but no injuries to any drivers, and hopefully that the spectators are going to be okay. So get ready for the restart of the Winston 500 from Talladega. They were setting a pace well in excess of 208 miles an hour when the crash occurred, and we expect that to be the situation now as we are about to go back to green. The pace car pulls off the pit area, pulls into the pit area. Benny Parsons will lead them down toward a green flag. Richard Petty is right behind him. The crowd jumps up to its feet once again, raises their arms, begins to cheer, wave their hats, and here we go. The Winston 500 is green once again, and the race resumes. That's Bill Elliott dropping to the inside of Richard Petty. Bill looking for the lead. Here comes Davey Allison. Bill Elliott goes to the high side of Benny Parsons, and Labonte drops to the low side as they come off the second corner and go down the backstretch.
Labonte low being followed by Davey Allison, and there's Morgan Shepherd. You can see the draft effect taking place. And Davey trying to assist Terry Labonte to the lead. Moving up also on the bottom side is Buddy Baker. He told us earlier that's where he feels comfortable this weekend, and Baker is on the prowl.
28 laps about to be completed now. Terry Labonte is back in the lead with Elliott and Allison second and third.
The last time through the tri-oval, I know it was the restart, but everybody was off the pace just a little bit. They really drove gentlemanly down through the tri-oval. Still a lot of dust from the quick dry that needed to be applied to the tri-oval section. By the way, Richard Petty dropped way back at the start of the restart of the race. You saw he didn't last very long up front. Petty has dropped back about 15 or 20 positions.
So they come out in the same order that they were running before the red flag, and Terry Labonte is looking very strong in that Budweiser Chevrolet. Elliott in second and Davey Allison is third. Here comes Buddy Baker in the Oldsmobile, who's also showing some strength. He was very confident going into the competition here this afternoon. Now Allison alongside Bill Elliott as they cross the stripe once again. Elliott going to the high side of Terry Labonte. Will he go into the lead? Yes, Bill Elliott is in front.
Bill Elliott, the man to beat on the Superspeedways for essentially the past 2.5 years. The performance dipped a little bit in 1986, but remember that great season back in 1985, 11 victories all on the big racetracks. There is the view out the back window of Rick Wilson's Kodak race car. You can see Benny Parsons right there. Everybody falling in line, trying to find where their car feels most comfortable. Despite the fact that this is a 200-mile-per-hour racetrack, there are 2 or 3 at least different lanes that everybody can choose to race in.
Look how fast the wall goes by you when you're running at 200+ miles an hour. He ran through that area of oil dry and kicked up a little bit of dust, but there's no problem there. The track is completely safe, and no debris or oil is on the racetrack at this moment. Now we swing the camera around, and we'll get a shot from out front of Rick Wilson. He's running in 9th spot, by the way. Setting the car into 33 degrees of banking here in turns 3 and 4. Now they come onto the tri-oval where the banking is 18 degrees. Wilson trying the low groove. There he sets the car low into turn number 1. Meanwhile, it's a 4-car train. That's Bill Elliott, and look at this competition back of the leaders.
By the way, Richard Petty almost a lap down. There you can see the bright orange Tide machine of Darrell Waltrip looking low. He's trying to get underneath Sterling Marlin. Rusty Wallace is in that group, also on the bottom. Alan Kowicki, who had major repairs, they tried to accomplish his pull behind the pit wall. Not out of it yet, but taking a long break here.
Look at this competition. That's 12th place Lake Speed in that purple car to the inside, and then everybody forming behind him. Benny Parsons alongside.
Ricky Rudd is in that group. Rusty Wallace, Bobby Hillen Jr., Neil Bonnet.
Rusty Wallace is there in the Kodiak car.
Harry Gant is also on the end of that. Rudd not getting a good first turn that time. That red car, he's fourth in line as you look him on the screen right now. The yellow flag is coming out. There is debris on the backstretch. Hopefully it's low as this pack of cars races into number 3. Now remember, there is the gentleman's agreement, but they are all authorized to keep racing if they want to. And with this pack of cars and with everything at stake and as much money as they're involved here, let's see how everybody plays it. They've all seemed to have calmed down. I see nobody making any sudden movements. There's Richard Petty, the red and blue car, a lap down, remember.
Yeah, he would certainly like to get the lap back, but it's just impossible as the starters, the leaders, do cross the line under yellow. And speeds are reduced for the 3rd time this afternoon. Neil Bonnet is coming in for a stop.
Neil Bonnet, who started this race in 21st position. He was the fastest of the second day qualifiers.
Let's go to Dick Bergman in the pit area, who's right there with Neil.
Well, Neil Bonnet has made another pit stop. He's got some problems with a vibration in the car. He made an earlier pit stop where they jacked up the right side, took a good look underneath it. The left side took a good look underneath it. Apparently his problems continue. Neil Bonnet, however, has now left the pit area.
They've had a pretty good year, Bob. They've been in or close to the top 5 in points all year long, and they've been racking up finishes.
Our 3rd caution period of the afternoon, including one very lengthy red period, as Neil Bonnet catches up with the rest of the field. 33 laps are in the books at the Winston 500. Darrell Waltrip is back in the pit area. They're still trying to seal that new windshield they put in just after the red flag. Let's go to Jerry Punch.
Well, they are still trying, as you said, seal the windshield area. The frame, as Larry Newber mentioned, the frame around the windshield was what was bent, which makes it much more difficult than a routine windshield change. They have to come in and try to get as much sealing around the windshield. If air gets around that windshield, it will actually suck the windshield into the race car. They want to be very, very careful about that and try to seal it as well as possible.
Darrell moving back out onto the racetrack. However, we are under yellow because of debris that was spotted on the backstretch. The field is in the tri-oval and about to complete lap number 35.
Bob, one more comment about the windshield. They are safety glass. You saw a report from Jerry earlier in the pits. He was putting his hand right on what appeared to be shattered glass. It's very soft and it's not nearly as dangerous as what you drive around in your pleasure car.
Signal is being given to the field. In one more lap, we'll go back to green. It's Elliott. It is Terry Labonte, then Davey Allison, Buddy Baker, Dale Earnhardt, Ken Schrader, Kyle Petty, Rick Wilson, Morgan Shepherd, Benny Parsons, and Lake Speed.
If there has been a surprise, it has been the strength of Labonte. Buddy Baker and Ken Schrader have made the biggest moves inside the top 10. Baker right now is 4th, Schrader is 6th. Whether or not they can race up and do battle with the likes of Elliott, the current leader, Terry Labonte 2nd, and Davey Allison remains to be seen. We'll see what happens here in the next couple of laps. Once again, moving into the top 5, or at least as candidates for it, after having started outside of it, Buddy Baker and Ken Schrader doesn't really come as a surprise, even though Schrader has never won a race. Many observers were saying, hey, these two guys are strong. One other little wrinkle about that, Schrader and Baker have spent significant quiet time together. I don't know exactly what that means, but the last couple of days, they look like they are interested in at least assisting each other to get to the front. Let's see if there's any teamwork that goes on there. They apparently have been running together with each other in practice and feel very comfortable with one another. There is Ken Schrader, and who came out of the USAC open wheel ranks, the sprint car and midget racer. You can see in 8 starts, he's had 1 top 5, 4 top 10s, and he is the most recent man who looks like the biggest threat to pick up his first ever Winston Cup win.
He's moved from 15th rather, to 6th. Richard Petty's car on the inside. He is a lap down. The pace beginning to pick up once again as the pace car pulls off, and a resumption of the Winston 500 is upon us once again. There's the green flag, racing again. 36 laps in the books. Labonte, and Davey Allison. Then Buddy Baker and Dale Earnhardt. Richard Petty, the slow car, to the inside. Now moving in line with the rest, but Richard is a lap down as Buddy Baker moves around him, and so will Dale Earnhardt.
This is where Bill Elliott shined. Needless to say, if you've been following stock car racing, or even if you've been living in a cave, you've probably heard about it. Bill Elliott does very well on these big racetracks. Daytona and Talladega have been his specialties. He is the one that everybody is pointing toward.
Well, our ESPN schedule has been certainly affected somewhat by the long red flag period. We're going to take this break and be right back with more from Alabama International Motor Speedway. It's 5:30 Eastern Time, and we welcome you back to the Winston 500 Winston Cup race. We had a very lengthy, in fact, 2-hour and 38-minute red period when Bobby Allison went into the catch fencing, and we had to repair it. The re-air on the Formula One San Marino Grand Prix Tuesday at 9 a.m., Friday, May 8th at 3 a.m., and Friday, May 15th at 1 p.m. All of those Eastern times. The top 4 finishers in that Formula One race today: Nigel Mansell, the winner; Ayrton Senna was second; Michele Alboreto third; and Stefan Johansson finished 4th.
Bob,
here at Talladega, it's Bill Elliott leading Davey Allison.
Yep, and they pulled away a little bit, not substantially, but a little bit from Buddy Baker. Buddy may well be driving his own race. Right behind this trio, it's Ken Schrader, Dale Earnhardt, and Terry Labonte. Baker is the interesting character in my mind in this leading trio. You can see he's holding back just far enough that he's not in the picture. As we pull back there, you see him. He's now maybe 10 car lengths at speed behind him. Buddy Baker knows how to win at Talladega. Don't count this man out. He is hungry for victory. Look at him running right down there at the bottom of the racetrack. It's not necessary to do that, but if the car sticks down there, he doesn't abuse his machine as long as it runs carefully down there and smoothly. He's not abusing it quite as much as the other people up in the banking and also the quicker way around. I suppose it gives you a touch better gas mileage. That's not important, not enough.
Now the Oldsmobile beginning to catch the 2 Fords who have taken off into the lead, Elliott and Davey Allison. They're running right together on the racetrack, and the Oldsmobile of Buddy Baker is beginning to catch up. But the 2 Ford products well into the lead right now here at the Winston 500.
This point in the race, not much strategy, not nearly as much as in the second half. You try to measure the leaders and find out what kind of pace they're running and make certain that you are at least capable of following along with the leader, whoever it might happen to be, and just keep pace with them. As you get to the second half of the race, you can start doing some more realistic experimentation. Where does the car run? Can I run up along the wall if I have to? Can I run way down there to the bottom like I would like to, like you see Baker doing right now? You start picking the places where the aerodynamics, given the atmospheric conditions of the day, the velocity that you're going, the wind turbulence from the other cars, seems to work the best on your machine. What if I have to make a pass late in the race? That's when the real experimentation starts. There was a time when the drivers would do a lot of trading. The early laps here at Talladega. Here comes Buddy Baker coming up to take a close-up view of the rear bumper of Davey Allison. But because the cars have changed so much in recent years, you can't afford to do quite as much jockeying as you once did.
Baker has now caught Davey Allison. Let's see if Buddy challenges for position. That last lap was at a 205.890 mile-an-hour rate by Bill Elliott. Here he comes leading the trio. Elliott, Allison, and Buddy Baker.
205, probably a little more realistic. The early laps when Bill Elliott was streaking away, remember he was going 209. Is it possible that Elliott can go 209? He's out of the throttle for just a bit and allowing everybody else to kind of be teased.
Back in 4th position is Dale Earnhardt, who is leading Ken Schrader and Terry Labonte. As you can see, some hand signals being exchanged out there on the backstretch. Dale taking that car also to the bottom of the racetrack as he tries to hold off the challenge of both Schrader and Labonte. Labonte going to the low side of Schrader and picking up that spot as Kyle Petty is watching.
What that 4 cars right there is trying to do, and what Dale was probably signaling for to Labonte and Schrader and Kyle Petty, he does not want the 3 leaders to get away even at this early stage of the race. Dale has been trading positions with Terry and with Kenny Schrader, and he is probably attempting to communicate to them, hey, the more that we race with each other, the further away those 3 leaders get, so let's stay in line. I don't know if Terry did exactly what Dale wanted to do in the last lap. Here comes Terry. Terry wants to go around Dale. Dale would have liked the 4 of them to stay in line and go up and catch the 3 leaders, but Terry says, hey, I think I'm the strongest car in this bunch. I may not need your help. I'm going to pass everybody. I'm going to go up and catch the 3 leaders on my own.
Well, that will look like an old-fashioned slingshot move, although the slingshot isn't nearly as effective as it used to be. But he sure used it going around Dale Earnhardt there at the end of the backstretch. And we're going to get a clock on Bill Elliott to see exactly the speed that he is turning here.
Bob, it's too early to be saying, well, so-and-so is in charge of this race. But if there are 2 people who have a little more say in what's going on right now and are in just a little more control, it would be, in my opinion, Elliott and Baker.
If you just joined us, we were 2 hours and 38 minutes in a red flag because of a Bobby Allison crash that tore down some fencing separating the grandstand from the racetrack. But we are back underway now, and we have run 46 laps of this race. We are timing the pace of leader Bill Elliott. Davey Allison is tucked in right behind him, and Buddy Baker is following in 3rd. And there is the lap time of Bill Elliott. It is 46.2 seconds for 2.66 miles. That translates to a speed of 207 miles an hour. 207.28 as a matter of fact for Bill Elliott. So he picked up a couple of miles an hour than when we timed him on our stopwatches just a few laps ago.
They have put a lap on last week's pole setter, Morgan Shepherd. Morgan Shepherd is now a lap down. Comment about Davey Allison. Continues to run in 2nd spot. Had a long conversation with Joey Knuckles, his crew chief, yesterday, and they are very calm and collected. They don't sense any pressure at all. They just want to go out and do the best that they can given the conditions for every race. No pressure to be rookie of the year, no pressure to go after points. They're really a pretty competent crew. They're constantly trying to give Davey some intellectual input as to how to approach these races. Joey Knuckles is a very experienced crew member, very experienced crew chief, and if anybody can help out a young man like Davey, Joey is certainly one of the people.
Well, Davey is certainly hanging right in there with Bill Elliott, not letting him get very far away. The pace of the race, as we saw, was about 207 miles an hour. We talked to Bill earlier about that.
You've had a lot of practice here, Bill, and a lot of laps, and the practice sessions are critical, but race pace. I mean, a lot of people are saying that the pace, because of the heat, may not be as quick as people want it to be early on. Now, you qualified 2:12, but what do you race at, and what kind of pace can we expect to see?
Well, I look at it in seconds-wise, probably between a 46.50 and a 47 flat. I don't base it in miles per hour. I just look at the stopwatch, and then the fans can compute it into miles an hour. But from what I've seen race pace here before, it's been between a 46.50 and a 47 flat.
Can you imagine running a race with about 35 other cars out there on the racetrack at 207 miles an hour?
Either way, either in clock time or miles per hour, that is very rapid. Well, let's put it in perspective, Bob. 200 miles per hour. Almost everybody has been in a vehicle on the highway. There's Joe Ruttman. Apparently, he is pulling behind pit wall. Joe in a one-off ride at the ball number 99 for this weekend. Interesting to see whether or not Joe can go back out.
Joe is very enthusiastic going into this race also. Didn't qualify all that badly. Started 23rd in the races. We are back inside the Rick Wilson car, the Kodak Racing Film Machine, and he is currently in 8th position. There you see Morgan Shepherd on the high side, but remember, Morgan has been lapped.
Again, put it into perspective. I want to drive that point home. 200 miles per hour. We're becoming almost casual about it, those of us who follow races, because it's commonplace in Indianapolis cars, it's commonplace on a big racetrack like Talladega here, and that's twice as fast as 100 miles an hour. And I know that almost sounds like a cliche. He puts one lap on Morgan Shepherd, obviously not running a car that's at full song, but think about it, 200 miles per hour.
And you can see the tremendous difference in speed there as Rick just blew by Morgan Shepherd, who isn't running all that slow, although, as you said, the car isn't up to full capacity. Rick Wilson in turns number 1 and 2 again. Coming out onto the flat backstretch. That's Lake Speed in number 83, right behind Rick Wilson.
Rick Wilson likes this racetrack, Bob. He doesn't run every race on the trail, but he likes high-speed speedways, and here at Talladega as well as at Daytona, Rick Wilson may someday soon win a race.
Davey Allison once again looks to be in a very strong, challenging position to Bill Elliott. He dropped to the low side of the racetrack, or at least looked low, going into turn number 3, and now he does the same thing going into turn 1. But Elliott hangs on to the lead, and Buddy Baker is also right there in 3rd position, following Davey.
Remember part of the legend of Talladega, dark horses winning, oftentimes the first win of their career. He is certainly not a dark horse right there. Buddy Baker, once one of the acknowledged masters of Talladega, still one of the acknowledged masters of Talladega. He may not run every race on the schedule, but when they line up and drop the green flag on a super speedway, Buddy Baker has got his act together. And it doesn't make any difference if you won 5 of 7 or 1 of the last 50. You have to think in terms of, well, how do I beat Baker? He's always going to be one of the top 5 guys. Now, people who fit into that category of those who might be considered dark horses, maybe you don't think of them as wins, might be somebody like an Allison or maybe even a Sterling Marlin, but there are several others in the field.
Terry Labonte now is catching up to the lead draft, as he is within a few car lengths of Buddy Baker. Baker to the inside of Davey Allison. Let's see how this shakes out going into turn 3. Both cars drop low on the racetrack, but Buddy stays back in 3rd. But look at Terry Labonte, who's high on the racetrack in that number 11 Budweiser car, and now it's a 4-car battle. You're right, Larry. When he went around that group of cars a while ago, I think he was telling them, I can run all by myself and I can catch this lead draft, and by golly, he has.
He proved it, Bob. I'll tell you, this is the best that Junior Johnson, the Jeff Hammond crew chief car, has looked throughout the entire 1987 season. There is Labonte looking at Buddy Baker. Labonte in the double-digit 1 and Baker in the double-digit 8. A couple of veterans now of NASCAR racing. Of course, Buddy Baker's been around for quite some time. And Terry Labonte, one of the new stars of the last decade.
Look at how close they are during drafting. That's Lake Speed in the Wins car right behind Rick Wilson, and some major league drafting going on here.
It helps both cars, remember. It's been pretty well documented by all the media that when you sneak up like that, both cars get just a little more horsepower as they power around the banks. It also helps the fuel mileage.
And the extra bracing you see there in the rear windshield is just simply to keep it from being damaged under these high speeds. It protects the windshield from being blown out when the car goes through air at over 200 miles an hour.
Now what's going on right here is that Lake Speed and Rick Wilson have not been able to run with the leaders. But what they have discovered, particularly in the case of Lake, is that, gee, I'm running about the same pace as Rick Wilson is. I'm running faster than the back markers. They just went around Jimmy Means, but I can't run with the leaders. So to help each of us, I'll draft for a little bit. Maybe it'll help both of us move up a little closer to the front, save just a little bit on the fuel mileage, and at least at this point in the race, that is the best move for both of us. That's my opinion, Lake Speed. Now, through hand signals, he may have transferred those thoughts also to Rick, and he agrees.
Just some great shots from Rick Wilson's Kodak race cam as we watch him and Lake Speed drafting. Look how Lake pulls right up on the rear bumper of that car going into the corner.
He has to pull back as they go through the banking because the turbulence has a tendency to move both cars around. It's not a safe maneuver to follow that close as they go to the banking. Down the straightaways, he can sneak back up again. He can get real close as they go into the corner right now. Now he's got to start thinking about getting out of the throttle. The car's going to tilt up as they go 35 degrees. Lake pulls back a little bit, gives both of them room. Now it begins to flatten out on the tri-oval, and Lake can creep up just a little bit more again.
And from the grandstand, that's how it looks. That's how far they are apart, or how close they are, perhaps we should say, as Wilson and Lake Speed are hooked up together in a draft. Crossing the start-finish line, that completes lap number 57. As the lead continues to be held by Bill Elliott. We're watching Rick Wilson and Lake Speed battle for that 8th spot.
Lake Speed had a pretty good qualifying run. He was the 10th fastest back up front. You can see Davey Allison is still following Bill Elliott around. One of those two people is holding back. It's either Elliott or Allison because it's very uncommon for two cars to stay this close for so long.
Despite the fact that it's 20 minutes of 6 Eastern time, we're still very early in this 188 lap, 500 mile race here at Talladega. The red flag caused a 2-hour and 38-minute delay. The red flag caused by Bobby Allison's spectacular crash here in the Tri-Oval, in which about 100 feet of catch fencing was torn down, protecting the grandstand, and that had to be completely repaired. It is. Now we're back into racing, but only 58 laps have been completed. And the top three now have Bill Elliott, Davey Allison, and Terry Labonte has now moved to third. Buddy Baker is in fourth position. We'll be back with more of our live coverage from Talladega. A lot of action just in the past few minutes. A catch can from Dale Earnhardt's car is lying in the middle of the backstretch. Now we saw Bill Elliott apparently run out of fuel. There is the catch can. Now Bill Elliott appeared to suffer a problem. It could be lack of fuel. Davey Allison, Terry Labonte, and Buddy Baker blasting around him as Bill Elliott went to the low side of the racetrack and into the pit area. Now Dale Earnhardt, who had come out of the pit area, but he was carrying his catch can. You can see it there on the back end of the car on the right side. He will lose that as the car went down the backstretch, and that has necessitated our fourth caution period of the afternoon.
A very uncommon occurrence for the Richard Childress crew for 1987. A mistake in the pits, and that hasn't happened very often. That may, as a matter of fact, have been the first.
And in any case, 61 laps now in and the yellow out.
Earnhardt had pitted under green. He had lost significant ground. Bill Elliott had slowed down. He had lost a lot of racing ground. He apparently ran out of gas, as we told you, and as the leaders raced back to the line, the number 28 car of Davey Allison had the lead.
Let's go down to Jerry Punch, who's in the Davey Allison pit.
Well, Davey Allison raced the Halloween 4 down pit road. Joey Knuckles and the rest of the Peach Fuzz gang, they call it, because they're all fairly young fellas. They have the car fueled. They have changed right side tires. We'll move the deck around to the left side of the car. And Buddy Baker also getting on the bottom of the screen. Buddy getting tire changes as well. They have the 4 tires now going on the Davey Allison car. Baker's crew trying to get that car out. Allison's car down and off the jack. Baker's still working on his car, getting the tires changed on the Buddy Baker Crisco Oldsmobile. Davey Allison already making his way down pit road.
Davey Allison pulls onto the racetrack, and now Buddy Baker begins to leave also.
Bob, the big question is, did Elliott lose a lap or not? I think this caution flag saved him.
I think you're right. I don't think that Elliott went a lap down, but it was close.
Boy, what a break for Bill Elliott, because he lost at least a half a lap on the racetrack to the leaders when, again, we are speculating he ran out of fuel. And just as that happened, Earnhardt made his pit stop. Earnhardt went out, lost the catch can. The yellow flag had to come out, and it allowed Bill Elliott to make up the half a lap deficit that he lost pitting as he coasted into the pits.
Richard Petty is also in the pits. Dale Inman and crew are doing some work on that car. Remember, that was one of the cars that suffered some damage in that Bobby Allison crash, but Richard pulling back out onto the racetrack. Dick Berggren has also a report from the pit area.
Yeah, I just talked to Dan Elliott, and Dan said no, they didn't run out of gas in Bill Elliott's automobile, but he did stall it here on pit road. Now, he came in under the green flag before that caution flew. While they were putting the fuel in it, while they were changing the tires, the engine stalled. That's fairly common. It is also common that when the engine stalls, sometimes when they get it restarted, it sounds boggy. And when he left here, that engine sounded boggy. That appears to be the problem.
Well, Dick, he dropped low on the racetrack well before he would have if he was just coming in for a regular pit stop. So we may watch that situation and see if indeed Bill Elliott has trouble. Rick Wilson's crew finishing the job on his car, and Rick pulling back out onto the racetrack. We have been given the signal that there will be one more lap and then go back to green here at the Winston 500 from Talladega. 63 laps are on the board. Ken Schrader shown as the leader. Now NASCAR and an ESPN track back. This track fact is brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oil. New Quaker State with QSX keeps your engine cleaner to last longer.
Did you ever buy a brand new car, spend a lot of money for it, and get it home, and you don't exactly like the way the body panels fit? You know, there may be a little extra gap between the hood and the fender in order to please you. Things don't quite line up right. Spend all that money, but it just doesn't line up the way you might like it to line up. On the other hand, if you want to buy a car that's got body panels that fit perfectly, write yourself a check for $75,000 and buy a Miller American Buick like Bobby Allison is driving today. Look how nicely this hood fits. The door is all perfectly welded in, molded in, and formed in. And it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of work to do all of this. And they do it for one reason and one reason alone: aerodynamics. And that's the whole ball game here at Talladega.
Well, unfortunately, Bobby Allison's car does not look very aerodynamic now. He was the individual involved in a very spectacular crash here in the Tri-Oval on lap 22. We were down for 2 hours and 38 minutes to repair some fence. We are only 63 laps into this 188 lap event, and the green flag comes back out once again. The leader is Ken Schrader. Ricky Rudd moving alongside him, but Rudd is a lap down. Davey Allison there in the black and white and gold number 28 is in second, and Buddy Baker in the 88 car is third.
Schrader has given indications that he could be one of the stronger cars in the field, so now he has an opportunity. Davey Allison tucks right in behind him. They go underneath the 64 car. Connie Saylor driving for Elmo Langley this week. Buddy Baker follows through. Kyle Petty is the fourth one in line.
They come out of corner number 4 and into the Tri-Oval once again. Look at the field, all stacked up behind the leaders. As they come through, it is still Ken Schrader from Benton, Missouri, now showing the way. We've had 8 lead changes among 6 drivers already. Back inside the Rick Wilson car now, the Kodak car, following Benny Parsons there on the left side of the screen. Now he goes to the inside and passes Benny Parsons, and Neil Bonnet is also right in front of him. Benny obviously not happy with the car, with the way that car is performing. Benny Parsons out for a Sunday afternoon drive in excess of 200 miles an hour.
Tight quarters, 2 Valvoline cars, Greg Sachs and Neil Bonnet. There's Elliott moving up.
Elliott's car is apparently performing okay. We had some concern about that because he dropped low on the racetrack, and there is Darrell Waltrip at number 17, now right alongside Rick Wilson.
Waltrip has been driving a calculated race since replacing that broken windshield. Remember, he ran up into the top 4 in the early stages.
Darrell passes Rick Wilson. Into the 33 degrees of banking once again. Connie Saylor at number 64 to the left. Darrell Waltrip ahead. And the lead now belongs to Davey Allison. Buddy Baker is second. Ken Schrader back to third. Bobby Hillin Jr. is running fourth. Remember, he's won his only Winston Cup race here on this racetrack.
Bobby Hillin Jr. was the best overall performer in the 2 races a year ago here at Talladega. He had a 4th in this race in the spring, and he won the midsummer race. 1st and 4th a year ago. Best performance of everybody.
Now Dale Earnhardt is also caught up to the lead draft. He goes to the inside of Bobby Hillin Jr. and passes Bobby easily. Now he'll go outside of Ken Schrader as that Chevy handling well for Dale Earnhardt. He's 4th. Well, look at Terry Labonte and Kyle Petty also catch up to this lead draft.
Schrader leading to 5 cars behind Buddy Baker, even though he has never won.
Look at the competition out there. 4 abreast going into turn 1. Unbelievable.
Passing lap traffic. Elliott leading the group. There's Sterling Marlin. He's in second of that group. Then comes Waltrip. Rick Wilson carrying our onboard camera. Benny Parsons out back, and Dave Marcus on the high side of that group.
Marcus in the 71 Lifeboy car. Lets the car get up high on the racetrack as Rick Wilson looks for a spot on the inside of the racetrack.
Back in 1976, Dave Marcus was one of the winners here at Talladega. One of the places where the...
Oh, an engine is blowing. It's Davey Allison. No, it's Buddy Baker. Buddy Baker's engine apparently has gone sour. A big puff of smoke and vapor from that car. And Buddy Baker's afternoon may be over. He's at the very high side of the racetrack in turns number 1 and 2. There he is.
trying to stay out of everybody's way. That was the best place for Buddy to go. Yeah, you might say, well, what if he's dropping oil? Isn't that dangerous? No, Buddy was right up on the top of the racetrack, and because of where he was positioned when the motor went away, that was his best move to move up there.
There he's signaling everybody behind him that he's going to the inside of the track, and Buddy Baker just with an unbelievable job of driving to keep that car high on the racetrack, out of the groove itself, and keeping everybody out of trouble. Back to the yellow they race, and it is Davey Allison now leading. Earnhardt is going to be second, Hill in third, followed by Terry Labonte, Ken Schrader, Kyle Petty, Bill Elliott, and Greg Sachs.
For a lot of reasons, Bob, I'll tell you, I wish that Buddy would have had an opportunity to run this entire race. His last win was Daytona in 1983, and I felt he had a good chance today. There's Neil Bonnet. He takes this opportunity under yellow to stop briefly.
They're going to have to check the track for oil or other moisture on it before we go back to green situation. We're on lap number 70, and this is our 5th caution period of the afternoon.
A year ago, Buddy's best finish in NASCAR Winston Cup racing was right here at Talladega. He got 3rd in 1985. 2 years ago, he was 4th on 2 occasions. As we told you, his last win, Daytona 83. That was his 19th career win. One of the stalwarts of super speedway racing in NASCAR.
Harold Kinder displaying the yellow flag. Boy, he has had a unbelievable afternoon already, as the Bobby Allison crash occurred about 10 feet from him, and Harold had to be concerned about Bobby Allison's car actually coming up into his starter stand, but it did not. Now Dale Earnhardt makes a pit stop.
Kyle Petty jets in. A little early for a pit stop, but when we're this early in the race, if something is just not right, you've got to take that opportunity to come in. There's a possibility here that's going to put several people out of sync, that if this race happens to go mostly green for the rest of the day, could provide some interesting moments of decisions that have to be made as we get down near the end.
It's a 24.3 second pit stop for Dale Earnhardt, who goes back out onto the racetrack.
Marcus was in. We saw Ricky Rudd sitting down there, Richard Petty again, and Dale Jarrett.
Earnhardt going for 5 consecutive victories in Winston Cup competition here this afternoon. As we are under caution once again, we'll be back with more from Alabama International Motor Speedway in Talladega.
Well, you're looking at 46-year-old Buddy Baker, who just climbed out of the Crisco Oldsmobile. And Buddy, you really had the car humming today.
Oh, it was running super good. I was biding my time, and right before the last caution, I felt a little heat on the back of my neck, and I knew something was going on with the gear, but we were effortless. You know, car would close up when I wanted it to. I was just sitting there riding, and I think we're used to locker here, not a locker, but a ratchet gear. And I think it's the first time I ever run one here. I got talked into it at the last minute because of the bad pit stop at Daytona, and I think it just got so hot it tore the ring gear up.
You did a heck of a job just to hang on to the car up there in the banking.
Yeah, well, it was right where Bobby had his problem, and I didn't want to repeat that action, so I stayed right up on top of it. I was lucky, though. You know, at speeds we're running anymore, when things go wrong, they go wrong, so I was real lucky.
Well, with you out of it now, Buddy, who's looking good to you out there?
I'm too sick to answer that. I thought I had to race one, and you know, it's a long ways to go, and Terry Labonte looks to me like he's handling a little bit better than anybody else, but Bill Elliott's got a lot of straightaway.
Well, the story in the garage this morning from people like Elliott and Earnhardt and even Terry Labonte was that this man, Buddy Baker, if the car would hang together, he would be the man in victory lane today, but of course it didn't, and so it's left up to them to decide who's going to win the Winston 500.
Yellow remains out, and tonight we remind you that at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, it'll be a resumption of the Stanley Cup playoffs. The series between Detroit and Toronto tied at 3 games apiece, so this will decide it. Can Jacques Demers' Detroit Red Wing Club win this game, or will it be the Toronto Maple Leafs? You'll find out at 8 o'clock Eastern Time tonight, live here on ESPN. Now, we had a very bad crash early this afternoon that caused this race to be red flagged for 2 hours and 38 minutes, the crash involving Bobby Allison.
Too early for a tire to go away. If there's probably debris is what I'm speculating on the racetrack. We'll never know. You can see Allison getting way up into the wheel fence, bouncing right underneath Harold Kinder. spinning down the front stretch, the field bearing down on him. They're heavily on the brakes right now, but for some people there just was not enough time to get stopped. Bobby is okay. There were no life-threatening type injuries up in the grandstands, a few anxious moments, but all of the necessary safety precautions that NASCAR insists upon really did their job here at Talladega today.
Well, we know that all of you who have been with us throughout the afternoon have seen that crash many times as we have replayed it, and we're doing it now because we're normally in our Formula One race time, but because of the lengthy yellow, where this race is being extended well into that. And that's why, for those of you who are just joining us, we showed you that Bobby Allison crash again. No serious driver injuries in that spectacular accident right here at the start-finish line. And the catch fencing has been repaired, and it's a very good repair job that took over 2.5 hours, but it looks very fine as everything is well supported and the spectators are once again safe from spinning and crashing race cars. Let's hope we don't have any more of that this afternoon, but Buddy Baker was right when he said that problem developed on his car right where Bobby Allison did hit, and it sent a thrill through me as I saw that car in trouble, but everybody stayed out of the way and everybody got through very nicely. The green flag comes out once again, Harold Kinder with it, and the Winston 500 back underway.
Bob, that last caution flag caught a lot of people at the wrong time. Suddenly, about 4 or 5 cars that were on the lead lap are now 1 lap down. There are the leaders, Davey Allison on the left, there's Bobby Hillin Jr. Sterling Marlin and Lake Speed, 3rd and 4th in line, are a lap down. 2 people who had hopes that, well, maybe our chances are outside ones, but we think we've got some.
Well, Bobby Hillin is sure looking good as he is in 2nd position, and Terry Labonte there in the number 11 car is 3rd. Here comes Rick Wilson, who is also a lap down. So several cars in this mix here, a lap down, including Sterling Marlin, Lake Speed, and Rick Wilson.
So Davey Allison finds himself in front of this snarling pack of 3,500 horsepower, 3,500 pound, I beg your pardon. It seems like 3,500 horsepower here at Talladega. And Davey Allison has some interesting decisions to make. You can see the advantage between 1st and 2nd, and then 2nd in the rest of the field. Davey has got to decide suddenly for himself, gee, how fast do I want to go?
Inside Rick Wilson's Kodak car once again. That's number 17, Darrell Waltrip right ahead, and the Wins car driven by Lake Speed also ahead of Rick Wilson.
Waltrip has remained on the lead lap. Earnhardt out of the picture, but just behind you, also on the lead lap, and I'm pretty sure that number 9 car, he's also up there too. Be rest assured that Bill Elliott appears to be in control. There's Earnhardt.
There's Dale Earnhardt also passing Rick Wilson on the high side, going into turn number 1. There goes Greg Sachs in car number 50. So obviously Rick Wilson's car is not up to full song, but look how those cars bounce around as they're in the 33 degrees of banking. Look at that, almost out of control.
An example of the buffeting we told you about. The cars appear to be out of control, but the drivers expect this, so they're ready to react whenever the wind gust just hits them the wrong way. They give just enough room between themselves and their fellow drivers, so when that car jumps around, they're able to catch it, save it, and no incident.
Let's go to Dick Berggren in the pit area for this comment. Dick?
Well, the leader, Danny Allison, is doing extremely well. He's on his own, but one of the guys who had been dicing with him, Ken Schrader, is now drifted to the back of the pack. The handle has gone away on Schrader's car. It has become loose. They just made 3 separate pit stops. They changed stagger, they changed the wedge, and they also changed the spoiler, trying to get the car back together again. They're looking for the handle on the number 90 car.
Well, that number 28 car of Davey Allison is really hooked up, and he too is working the low side of the racetrack. He's the leader at this moment with 77 laps completed. And coming around now in 2nd position is going to be Terry Labonte.
Once again, stagger. There is Schrader. Dick was just talking about that. The stagger is the difference in the size, the circumference of the outside tires and the inside tires. Wedge refers to the ride height, basically, of the car on the 4 corners, and the spoiler speaks for itself. It's a little thin piece of metal that runs across the trunk lid, depending upon what angle you put it at. It either gives you more downforce or less and helps that car stick to the speedway.
Ken Schrader there on the inside of Ricky Rudd. Rudd is a lap down. The car ahead of this group, the number 27 car of Rusty Wallace, is on the lead lap, shown in 11th position. There's Rusty in the number 27 car. That's Harry Gant also there in 33. He is a lap down.
Close competition as always at Talladega. Although the lead changes, Corey, does not occur as dramatically as it once did. But you can still see very good competition. Despite the ultra-high speeds at Talladega, the wind whips around this bowl of a racetrack and has a tendency to allow the otherwise slower cars to keep up with the otherwise quicker cars and makes for closer competition.
Neil Bonnet in number 75 is on the lead lap. He's in 3rd position, behind Terry Labonte. Look at the interval that has been opened up here by Davey Allison as that Haviland Ford is leaving everybody in the dust, at least for the moment. They enter the tri-oval once again. That's Dale Earnhardt, who has moved into 4th position behind Neil Bonnet and Terry Labonte. Bobby Hillin follows.
This is not the first time that Davey Allison has been behind the wheel of a machine in the 1987 season that showed to be a real candidate for the win, but as this race continues to unfold, as laps pass by, it's becoming his best chance.
Dick Berggren is with Joey Knuckles, who is the crew chief on the Davey Allison car.
Joey, you guys seem to be just taking off from the rest of the field. Aren't you concerned you might burn the car up too early?
Well, we were tight at the beginning of the race. The pace that we're setting right now is about the same as before Bill got stuck back there in traffic. Davey says he's really not running that hard, but you know, maybe we'll talk to him in a little bit. He's pretty upsy and gutsy guy, and he knows what's happening, so we're in real good shape. This Texaco Havoline Ford Thunderbird, we're going to the front and staying there, hopefully.
You mean that car has more muscle than you're showing now?
I can't say.
He's going to be great. By the way, the crew chief and the driver were childhood buddies. They always wanted to race together, and here they got their chance.
Well, that was certainly going to be my question. If he has more left in that car at the pace he's setting right now, he has a handle on this field.
Bob, this is a big assignment for Joey, but based on what I've seen of this team so far in 1987, I'll bet they're pretty much in control. The assignment for Joey, and that is to not ride herd on Davey, but keep talking to Davey, keep giving him updates as to their progress in the race, where the rest of the field is. Keep in mind, Davey, this is a 500-mile race. We are going to go significantly more than 150 laps. That's Joey's job, to help keep this young driver informed so that Davey can concentrate on the lap-by-lap, turn-by-turn action out on the speedway.
Davey Allison's last lap was 207 miles an hour. Now Terry Labonte has broken away from 3rd place and is beginning to reel in, although slowly, Davey Allison, the leader of the Winston 500. We are live at Talladega, Alabama. They're the top 5, and we'll be right back. Davey Allison races down the backstretch here at Talladega, and Davey Allison is virtually running away from the field at this moment, but we are still early in this race.
Bob, the lead stretched from 3.5 seconds to 4.1 seconds, and now it's up above 5 seconds. So Davey Allison is disappearing in the sunset.
You know, it's been our tradition here on ESPN to follow the good battles, and boy, Davey Allison is not in any battle whatsoever. He's running away from this field. Terry Labonte is in 2nd position. The crew chief on this car, of course, Junior Johnson. Here's Jerry Punch.
Well, we're in the Budweiser pits with Junior Johnson, and Junior, Terry seems to be running pretty well out there. You're pretty pleased with the way the car is running right now.
Right now, Jerry, we feel like we're in real good shape. We just need to get back with Allison and Bill Elliott and stay there. We've been getting separated from them during pit stops, but to be here around the finish and be up there to have a shot at win, we need to get back with them boys.
You got to be pretty impressed with young Davey Allison. It was you that gave him his big break here last year at the Talladega 500, and where a lot of people saw what he did by driving your car, substituting for Neil Bonnet.
Well, Davey really did a super job job with our car here. We was pleased with him, and you know, if we helped him along, I'm glad of it. He's doing a real good job right now.
Well, they say Terry Labonte is back to 100% healthy now, so that looks like he's doing real well. In fact, the Budweiser team has been told already that Darrell Gwynn and Kenny Bernstein have already won in drag competition this weekend at Rockingham. They'd like to make it a clean sweep for Budweiser here in racing.
Well, right now, Terry has a bit of an assignment to catch Davey Allison, who has pulled away rather significantly. Now, here are some non-Winston Cup winners. Davey Allison started third, is running first. Sterling Marlin started seventh, is 12th. Bill Parsons dropped out of competition after being involved in the Bobby Allison crash. Lake Speed started 10th, is running 14th. Ken Schrader started 15th, is running 11th. Rick Wilson started 27th, is running 13th, and Alan Kowicki has dropped out with mechanical problems. But those are 7 drivers that have never won a Winston Cup race, but some of them that are still in contention here this afternoon.
And Schrader was the last one on the lead lap, and the first one on the lead lap, I guess you'd say reasonably in contention, is our leader, Davey Allison. He looks strong, and most importantly, he looks smooth. The lead is now stretched, Bob, by the way, to 6.18 seconds.
Well, perhaps Davey was somewhat inspired when he saw his dad crash, the defending champion of this race, and Allison perhaps thought then, well, there's going to be an Allison in victory lane anyway, and it's going to be me. Once again, from the rear of the Kodak car, driven by Rick Wilson, that is Ken Schrader following.
And of course, the job for Schrader is to hold on as tenaciously as he possibly can to the lead lap. This is not a time for heroics for Ken Schrader. The machine is just not working. The chassis, the stagger they particularly have on the car right now, they're just not in harmony. So Kenny is trying to stay out there and hope that the pit stops come up or a brief yellow flag happens so he can duck back into the pits and stay on the lead lap and stay in contention for the win.
Schrader drops to the low side of the racetrack and now pulls right alongside Rick Wilson. Schrader right beside the Kodak car. Look at the work that the driver must do to maintain control at speeds in excess of 200.
Kenny Schrader, he certainly is one of the most versatile drivers in America today. He still likes getting in all types of equipment. Remember again that many of his early successes behind the wheel of a race car, he's giving a wave to Lake Speed. He's asking Lake to follow him. He waved to Lake, and Lake did not drop in behind him. I think that they miscommunicated there.
Schrader almost ran into the back end of the car. Again, watching the action from Rick Wilson's machine. That's Lake Speed now right behind him. Ken Schrader is to the inside of the racetrack. And Rick Wilson is running in 13th. Lake Speed is 14th. So this is a battle for 13th spot. Lake Speed and Rick Wilson.
Bob, this business of the hand signals between drivers when they're out there running around at 200 miles an hour, it's a very intriguing one because there are no hard and fast rules. And just because somebody waves at you, you might give him the acknowledgement. That doesn't mean that you are obligated to follow suit and do what it looks like it was indicated to be done. As you can see the situation right there, Lake Speed as he darts down to the inside of Rick Wilson after trailing him for the last couple of laps. Does he have the advantage? Well, no. Rick is holding on. Oh, they get very close going through turn 3 and 4. Just not enough momentum to get by that time.
Oh, we have a car spinning.
Him. Looked like Harry Gant.
Car spinning is Harry Gant to the inside of the racetrack. Now he goes up into the banking and another car collides with him. Heavy contact with the wall in turn number 4.
Looked like Ricky Rudd. The paint job looks like Bud Moore's number 15. There's Harry, who started it. He was spinning down on the bottom of the track near the apron. He was racing with Ken Schrader. We could not tell from the angle whether or not there was contact between those two cars, but Harry Gant, the black luck, continues.
That is a badly damaged race car. Ricky Rudd coming in heavy contact with the wall. He was actually pinned against the wall by Harry Gant, whose car slid up the banking after spinning low on the track.
Ricky is moving around inside there, Bob. It looks, the signs look good here. He looks like he's trying to find a way to get out, looking for the connections on the window net. He drops the net down and now unbuckling, and Ricky Rudd decides to wait it out until the safety crews get there. This is Harry's second accident of the year. He had a wreck also at Atlanta, and for Ricky Rudd, remember, he was involved very prominently in the accident that sidelined Terry Labonte, or threatened to sideline Terry, with the broken shoulder bone. This is the third accident that Ricky has been involved in this year, and those have not been his fault.
Sixth caution period of the afternoon, and once again pit stops being made. Work done on Dale Earnhardt's car. They changed rubber on the right side, and now they're changing rubber on the driver's side of the car. And the crew wiping off the windshield. Quick pit stop for Dale Earnhardt. Out he goes once again.
Bob, I'll tell you, he has not dominated as we look at work being done in the Kyle Petty pit. He has not dominated like he has other races this year, but they are still very much in it.
There is Harry Gant, who's crawling out of that race car after he spun in turns number 3 and 4 and then hit the wall.
The apron breaks off reasonably suddenly. It's not a surefire thing that you're going to spin out if you drop down below it, but normally you are. Now remember, Harry's car is green and white. Let's see if we can pick it up on the screen. The spin has already begun. There is Schrader just jerking just a little bit to try and get around. And wow, right in Ricky Rudd's path. Ricky was just trying to make the only move that he could, and that was to squeeze between Harry and the track, or the outer retaining wall of the track, and there just wasn't enough room, and more importantly, not enough time.
Nowhere to go. Look at the impact. Tremendous. Ricky Rudd hitting the rear end of Harry Gant's car, then coming in contact with the wall, and some badly damaged machinery, but no driver injuries as Ricky Rudd and Harry Gant have both climbed out. And here's the shot that we had on the air. Harry is the third car in line. There he loses it.
I'll tell you, it was right directly in front of Ken Schrader, and it was not possible to tell from that angle whether or not there was contact, but the odds would indicate that there may well have been.
So Ricky is waving to the crowd, indicating that he is just fine. In fact, turning down a ride to the hospital. He's going to walk back to the pit area. Caution once again at the Winston 500. One of the cars that has suffered some damage in this Harry Gant-Ricky Rudd accident, Ken Schrader. As you can see, a hole in the front of that car. It'll obviously affect its handling and performance, but Ken Schrader was not directly involved in the crash. Harry Gant and Ricky Rudd having a collision up in turn number 4. Both of those cars out of the race as Ken Schrader comes in for a pit stop.
Not directly involved unless you consider that being one of the catalysts of it makes you involved directly or indirectly, Bob, but I'm convinced now that there was contact between Kenny and Harry Gant down on the bottom of the racetrack. We could not tell from the angle whether or not Harry slowed or whether or not Kenny crept up on him, but Kenny Schrader and Gant did make contact, sending Harry into that spin. There's Neil Bonnet.
Bonnet making a pit stop here in our 6th caution period of the afternoon, and we are at exactly the halfway point. So 4 hours and about 20 minutes after it started, we have finally reached the halfway point. And again, for those of you who just joined us, the reason this race is going so long is because we were red for 2 hours, 38 minutes and 14 seconds, a Winston Cup record for red period. And that was because Bobby Allison went crashing into the wall here in the Tri-Oval and tore down about 100 feet of fencing, which separates the spectators from the racetrack. That all had to be repaired, and it took over 2.5 hours. Bobby Allison was not injured. There were a couple of other cars involved, including Phil Parsons and Cale Yarborough. They were not injured also, so no injuries from that serious crash. By the way, the record for the longest red period until today was at Michigan International Speedway.
And that record still stands. I think they had like a 4 or 5 hour delay. Finished that race at 9:30. It was an 8.5 hour marathon. Dick Bergen is right now with Ricky Rudd.
Ricky, first of all, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. I think Harry's going to be all right, too. It looked like, I don't know exactly what triggered it. When I got there, Harry was spinning and came up the racetrack in front of me, and I got into him.
By the looks of your car, it was a very heavy crash.
Well, it was right hard contact made there. Stretched my neck a little bit.
But he's still a good sport. He walked the whole length of the garage area here to give us the interview. Ricky Rudd, okay after a tough one.
Nice young man, Bob. I'll tell you, Ricky's a good guy, and they've had a pretty good season by and large. When they've been able to avoid the accidents, which have not been their fault, they have been a consistent top 5 candidate.
Gant's car on the flatbed being taken back to the garage area. Well, let's check our mid-race recap right now. Presented by Napa. The leader at the halfway point was Davey Allison. It was under a caution period, however. The average speed to this point, 154.213. We'd have 7 leaders and 11 lead changes. 6 caution periods for a total of 25 laps. There are some of the cars that have dropped out of competition, including the number 22 of Bobby Allison, who was involved in the accident that caused the red flag. And other cars that have dropped out of competition include Chet Phillip, Jeff Bodine, Phil Parsons, Cale Yarborough, Ron Bouchard, and Alan Kulwicki. Joe Ruttman, Buddy Baker, Phil Barkdahl, Jimmy Means, Harry Gant, and Ricky Rudd have also called it quits for the afternoon.
High attrition rate, Bob, and we've already exceeded the normal number of 3 or 4 caution flags at Talladega. It's been a tough day.
Rick Wilson getting some service on that car, pulling out of the pit area once again. Davey Allison is going to maintain the lead here, as he is the second car behind the pace car, but the leader of this race, and Terry Labonte right there in the Budweiser car in second. We'll be back with more of our live coverage in just a moment. We saw a heart-stopping accident involving Bobby Allison earlier in this race, but he too walked away from the crash. All right, we're about to go green once again, and the Winston 500 resumes. 98 laps will be complete when the green flag comes out, and Davey Allison and Terry Labonte are at the front of the pack. One car smoking very badly coming through the tri-oval, Dale Jarrett. When he stepped on the accelerator, a big puff of smoke came from that car, and the yellow goes out once again. We'll have to check the track for oil.
Well, the leaders will race around to the checkered flag. There you can see Davey Allison waving to Terry. Terry Labonte waving to the rest of the field behind him. We are still just at the halfway point in the race. The gentleman's agreement is taking effect. Davey and Terry staying in the throttle, but not expecting anybody to move around them. Now, those are lapped cars that are trying to make up ground. Now, Davey will do his best to hold back the lap cars. The other guys who are on the lead lap with him will not go to racing with him. That's Lake Speed trying to get caught up, as is Benny Parsons, Morgan Shepard in the green car. But Davey does his job kind of holding the standard for the rest of the people on the lead lap. The rest of them say, Davey, you've got to beat those guys back to the line. We need to keep these people a lap down, and he did it.
So only one, not even a lap of green, and the caution comes out once again because of Dale Jarrett's mechanical problem here in the tri-oval. So with we're nearing the 100 lap mark. We've completed 99. Next time by will be 100. We'll still be under caution at that period.
Jesus, like pulling teeth trying to get 4 or 5 consecutive green laps. Once they get going, they seem to rock it around here pretty well for half hours at a time, but it's just getting past the hump of those first 2 or 3 up to speed laps.
The track crew is out, and they're spreading some oil dry on the surface of the racetrack here in the tri-oval. There is Bobby Hillin Jr., who is running in 6th position here. He is doing a fine job, and remember, his only Winston Cup win came here at Talladega, Alabama. Bobby Hillin is certainly in a challenging position to make it Winston Cup win number 2. And Bobby Hillin Jr., this is a little feature we did on Bobby Hillin at Bristol, but it involves the physical exercise and stamina that a driver must have in Winston Cup competition.
As one of the newer Winston Cup drivers, you may take training for a place like Bristol a little more seriously than some of the veterans.
Well, I think I take it seriously primarily for one reason. That's because I haven't been doing it that long, and the fact that Richard Petty and Bobby Allison and the guys that's been here for years, maybe I train a little harder than them because of the fact that they've done it year after year and year after year, and their body is accustomed to it. After 20 or 25 years of doing something, you don't really have to train for it. It's like pro football. They're not on the field as much as high school football players are and college football players are, because they've worked their bodies and they work their bodies and they work their bodies. They just have to worry about execution on the field. And I'm in a position where I have to worry about execution on the racetrack. We go out here and we beat and we bang and we go into the corner 500 laps around 4 corners. That's a lot of corners, and it throws your body over to one side. You have to fight the steering wheel, and at the same time you have to be mentally relaxed. And so I feel like since I've been in the sport, I've become more and more relaxed, and also been able to keep up the intensity while I was driving. And
And so, you know, I try to do novelist weights to keep my body and my muscles good and toned, you know, so that they don't get wore out. And I don't want to really build myself up. I just want to stay muscle toned. And I do a lot of racquetball for my hand, foot, and eye coordination. And then along with that, I do some boxing. And the boxing is something that Humpy Wheeler got me involved in. And it's more of it's a hand, foot, and eye coordination sport, but it's also something that helps me work on my aggression, because you want to be aggressive in this sport, but you can't be overly aggressive. If you go out in a boxing ring and you run yourself out in 3 rounds, well, you're going to get knocked out. That's the same way on this racetrack. If you go out there and start beating and running into people and running yourself overboard, well, you're either going to get crashed or crash yourself. And so it's something that you can work on your aggression, be more aggressive, and at the same time do it at a good pace to where you can finish the race and be aggressive. And you know, people are going to throw some punches at you on the racetrack, and you've got to be able to stand your ground, throw some punches back. So I'm trying to learn, you know, not only how to drive a race car, but how to temper myself in a race car, and also how to be physically prepared to take the blows and to take the 500 laps around a racetrack that's putting a lot of force on your neck and all your muscles.
A lot of physical preparation must go on by these drivers to withstand the tremendous G-forces here at Talladega and at all the racetracks that the Winston Cup runs on.
Bob, he still definitely has quite a future ahead of him. He's in his very early 20s. He's already won a Winston Cup race. They have not been in a position to win as many times this year as they were last year. That's how they won here at Talladega. He seemed to be finishing race after race in the lead lap. But, yeah, he's going to be around for a while. He's going to be a good one.
At the International Motorsports Hall of Fame last Friday, there was a presentation made to Museum Director Jerry Corbin, signifying the youngest winner in Winston Cup competition and the oldest competition winner. Both the Miller American cars of Bobby Hillin Jr. and Bobby Allison were donated to the International Motorsports Hall of Fame. We'd like to thank Jerry Corbin for his hospitality and letting us use his facility for our special Speed Week. Also, Don Naiman, the general manager of this facility, and Jim and Carolyn Freeman, who run the publicity and public relations department. Everybody here at Talladega just showing us tremendous hospitality, and we certainly appreciate their effort. And again, a salute to the track crews and the safety personnel that handled the red flag situation with real professionalism and expertise in getting that fence repaired and keeping the crowd entertained and under control for over 2.5 hours. We are about to go green once again. We have completed 101 laps. Now, Ed Pym in car number 98 was running in the top 10. He was brought in by Winston Cup officials because they thought they saw some liquid flowing from that car. The green flag is thrown once again, and racing resumes. Let's see if Davey Allison can pull away from the field as he has been able to do on a couple of occasions. And Sterling Marlin in car number 44 is also in the pit area. He lost a lap earlier and now moves back out onto the racetrack. Here's the battle on the track itself, however, as Labonte now is very close to Davey Allison and Dale Earnhardt in third.
All right, throughout most of this day, let's say, it's been Davey Allison and Terry Labonte, the two people up front right now, who have shown the most muscle. Dale Earnhardt is right in it. Bill Elliott is right in it. Now we'll see just how strong Allison and Labonte are. We're to the point in the race where you need to start showing a little bit more of your hand. Not all of it yet, because you still have to worry about the end. But if you have the capability of burying the rest of the field, it's a strong psychological move to show how strong you are. Well, is Mr. Elliott, is he going to go out after Labonte and Davey? It's a strong psychological move now to say, hey guys, I'm in control of this. Just go ahead and put your horns in, because you're not going to beat me today. That can have an effect on people later in the day.
Speaking of strong, Bill Elliott looks very strong as he passed Dale Earnhardt.
Bob, Dale's hood is flapping a little bit more than it normally should. Now, I don't think it's to the point of being serious, but it was moving a little more than normal on the left side as he went down that backstretch.
Here they come, single file in the tri-oval. It is Davey Allison, followed by Terry Labonte, then Elliott, then Earnhardt. Let's go down to the pit area once again.
Doctors making house calls. How about a pit road call? Neil Bonnet came in during the last caution. He got some debris in his eye and he couldn't see. Local medical first aid kit, a little bottle of eye wash. Neil Bonnet's okay. The only thing I forgot to do was get his health insurance card. I wonder if he's got insurance.
We'll make sure that you get paid for a house call on that particular incident there, Jerry, who is, of course, a licensed physician working in Daytona Beach. And in addition to that, he is, as you all know that watch the ESPN Auto Racing, an excellent pit reporter.
Ed Pym is back out on the racetrack, but not nearly up to full speed. We saw a shot of Ken Schrader, by the way, and the repairs, they are flapping in the breeze. Is at the very bottom of the screen right there, and the electric tape that is in place to try and create some aerodynamics, you can see it there, is fluttering. It's not working, it's not holding up. The pressure is just too great. Kenny is still on the lead lap, but he's the last car in line on the lead lap, and his chances for victory are gone. Just hopes to hold on.
The Valvoline cars running together. There's the green car of Morgan Shepherd alongside Dave Marcus, and then the number 90 car of Ken Schrader. There's Morgan Shepherd moving high on the racetrack and allowing Ken Schrader to pass by. The number 71 car is Dave Marcus once again.
Now the other people that have stayed in that position to win, as we call it, as we watch Schrader, remember he's still on the lead lap. There's Pym going very slow. Ed got out on the racetrack. We reported that he was in the pit area losing fluids. On the backstretch, he's dropped down below the line. The other people, in addition to the ones on the screen right there, Davey Allison, Terry Labonte, Bill Elliott. Is that Elliott's going in by into second? Yep, Elliott picked up Labonte into second. In contention to win is Dale Earnhardt. Rusty Wallace is on the lead lap. Bobby Hillin Jr., Darrell Waltrip, Kyle Petty, Greg Sachs as the last green flag went, Neil Bonnet, and we mentioned Kenny Schrader. And there is Kyle Petty.
Benny Parsons is running high on the track, and Kyle Petty right behind Rick Wilson's Kodak car. As we're inside his machine, looking out the rear end of the race car. Rick Wilson is a lap down. Kyle Petty in number 21 is unofficially in 8th. Now Kyle will make a move to the inside, at least attempt to make a move. Now he pulls alongside Rick Wilson. And Kyle Petty making a smooth pass to the inside of the racetrack.
Kyle Petty is currently 8th in point standings for 1987. He's right behind his father, the King Richard, right now. Kyle has won over $75,000 so far in 1987. He had that second at North Wilkesboro. There goes to the inside of Richard. Remember, Richard was involved in the Bobby Allison incident, spinning but not making any significant contact at the start of the race. Kyle was second at North Wilkes, a race that he raced into second. It wasn't given to him. It wasn't because of a late pit stop. It wasn't because of attrition. He was the second best car on the track at the end of the race. You know who the first one was.
Rick Wilson with the pedal to the metal, so as to speak, all the way around this 2.66-mile racetrack. We understand that car number 50, Greg Sachs, who was running in the top 10, may be having some mechanical problems.
The cars go north, they go east and north as they go through the tri-oval. Now, watch for the sun as they go down the backstretch as the cars start to go west. It's getting late in the day, the sun is setting. It's still setting over California last time we checked. But the sun, as it peaks over this 35-degree banking, might become a phenomenon for them. Down the backstretch, reaching turn number 3. Now they're going to turn into it as they go up the banking. Let's see how it affects Rick. There it is, you see it. And as it gets lower, it could get worse as the day goes on, and we still have about 80 laps to go.
Well, of course, everyone thought that the race would be well over by this time, but instead, we are only 109 laps into the race, and look who's back out there. That's Phil Parsons. We talked to him a few minutes ago, and he indicated the crew was continuing to work on it, and by golly, that car is back out onto the racetrack. Phil had contact with Bobby Allison in that crash.
And there is a piece of Cale Yarborough's car on the back deck of Phil Parsons' car. Watch the next time we see a rear shot of it. You can see a half a Hardy sign. He's got a part of Cale Yarborough riding with him. See there?
By golly, you're right. So that's the Hardy's Copenhagen car now,
yeah.
Although Copenhagen, of course, the official sponsor of that machine. Phil trying to pick up some valuable Winston Cup points that may help him as the season goes along. There's a leader, Davey Allison. Bobby Allison involved in a spectacular crash early. Davey trying to pick up in his father's footsteps and win here this weekend. Bobby, of course, was the winner a year ago in this race. Bill Elliott is second and Terry Labonte third.
Davey has not run the last 3 short tracks. He's crashed twice. As a matter of fact, the last time that we saw it was at Darlington. Remember that big fire when Davey went through the inside guardrail? No injury any time. He's had 1 top 5 finish and 2 top 10s. Could he win today?
Bob Jenkins, Larry Newber, Dick Berggren, and Jerry Punch back at Alabama International Motor Speedway, Talladega, for the running of the Winston 500. We're watching a battle here for 8th position. Bobby Hillin Jr. and Kyle Petty. And wow, that was close coming out of turn number 2 down the backstretch. Kyle moves alongside Bobby Hillin Jr.
Yeah, we're seeing a little bit of that flexing. Look who they've caught up with. There's Rusty Wallace and Kyle Petty right behind Dale Earnhardt. Now, Dale is running in 4th position in the race, and Rusty and Kyle are saying, hey, wait a minute now, I think we may be a little better. Now, up to this point in the season, if you're following right behind Dale, you're in the best position you can be in the race. You see Rusty drafting up. Now, watch Rusty try and perhaps get around as they go down the long backstretch. Rusty Wallace, Kyle Petty beginning to show a little bit of assertion here as we approach lap number 115 of 188.
Well, Rusty Wallace looking very good. He started 14th and is now up to 5th. This is 5th, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th here. There's Rusty Wallace in the Kodiak car in 5th position.
It's been a struggle apparently all week long for Richard Childress, Kirk Schomerdine, and the crew for Dale Earnhardt. They made some last-minute engine changes, some chassis adjustments yesterday. They had the engine out all day on Friday, and you didn't know for sure that they were having deep trouble or it was just a superficial thing, but we all sensed that they didn't have the superiority that they had in the first 8 races this year.
We mentioned a while ago that Greg Sachs may be suffering some problems, and indeed he is coming into the pit area and will be pulling behind the wall. Greg was in the top 10 and running a very strong race. There is Kyle Petty in car number 21. Yeah, race drivers make a lot of money when they're out there on the track, but they earn it, and they also give some of it to other charitable causes. We talked to Kyle Petty about that.
Program, a very special program that your sponsor has for some very special kids. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, we did. Most of the sponsors, the major sponsors have incentive programs for the drivers and the teams and the crews and stuff. And, if you win a race, it's a $10,000 bonus. If you win a major televised race like Daytona, it was $100,000. And what we did, we took our bonus program pretty much and put it back into Citgo. And what they did in turn started a Race for Life type deal where they donate the money to MDA. And Southland Corporation, their major sponsor, or their parent company has been instrumental with Jerry Lewis and MD for a number of years. And this is, I think Talladega's a $10,000 race, Michigan's a $25,000 race, and we've kind of let them down a little bit. We hadn't won any races, but we feel like that if we can come out ahead and win a couple of races, that it's not only going to help them, but it'll help us, and it's going to help Citgo.
So that's the story from Kyle Petty, as he is very much in contention for this race on the lead lap. The yellow has come out because of more debris on the racetrack. Let's go to Dick Berggren.
And Dick Berggren right now is in Davey Allison's pit, and he and everybody else is waiting for Davey to come in for his pit stop. He is not the first one in. Most everybody else has beaten Davey Allison on the pit road. Here is Davey finally. The crew zooms over to change tires. This is a crew that's taken a rough rap for their pit stop. They had a tough time at Daytona. They've had a tough time in general doing pit stops. They really want to do these things well, and right now is when it counts. Davey Allison, 4-tire change, fuel. Davey Allison in, he had been your leader. Joey Knuckles, crew chief, on the left front, tightening it up. We're also looking at Bill Elliott. He is in for a tire change and fuel as well. Allison still not off the jack. Down pit road to Jerry Punch.
Well, Bill Elliott and Terry Labonte both are pouring down pit road, and it looks like Elliott may make it, but Dale Earnhardt will slide by Bill Elliott. 4-tire change all the way around.
Earnhardt, Wallace, Elliott, Labonte, Davey Allison, Bobby Hillin. That's how they came out of the pit area.
Not the last pit stop. There'll be at least one more. But is the Childress crew beginning to come through? Earnhardt out of the pits first.
188 laps will make up this Talladega 500, and 117 are complete as we'll resume our live coverage after this. Still under caution because of debris on the backstretch, and the leader now, well, is going to be, I guess Davey Allison has moved around both Dale Earnhardt and Rusty Wallace. In any case, Rusty Wallace is doing a great job. Let's try to, okay, we will not attempt to reach him on the radio because he's going to be conferring with his crew chief, and we don't want to be privy to any of that information. So
well, wait a minute. I'd like to be privy.
Well, it might not be fair to the other competitors.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we went through that at Pocono with Al Unser Jr.
That's right.
A few years ago. Rusty has had a very good day, by the way. He's hung on in there at the top 10 on the lead lap.
Well, next weekend, we're going to be at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. ESPN on May the 10th will have live coverage of the Indy 500 time trials next Sunday, beginning at 6 o'clock Eastern Time, the final hour of time trials. And then we'll be back the next weekend with continued coverage of preparations for the greatest spectacle in racing, the Indianapolis 500-mile race. We hope you'll be with us next Sunday afternoon. And of course, all during the month of May, we'll be showing you historic films of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. And of course, we'll continue to update you every week on what goes on at the Speedway, the Indianapolis Speedway on Speed Week. Those historical films will be subject to our coverage of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So check your local listings and continue to watch ESPN for the schedule of those historic films. Now let's try to contact Rusty.
Rusty Wallace, this is Larry Newber up at ESPN. Looks like you still got a shot. You guys are hanging in there. You're with the leaders.
Yeah, Larry, the car's running real good today. The Kodiak flew Max Pontiac on, but Raymond Biddle just seems to be doing everything perfect. The crew hit the combination right today. Now I just got to fill the job and burn run home.
Rusty, there's at least one more, maybe two more pit stops. Are you guys going to try and maintain what you have, or is there still room for improvement?
Well, Larry, I don't think there's any room for improvement right now. The car was handling its best it did all day in that last set of tires. My tire guy can keep those tires coming like that. We'll be looking good.
Rusty, is there one driver that you're going to try and follow? Do you feel one man is the stronger, or are you going to run your own race from here?
The radio breakup has occurred, so we won't be able to give you the answer to that question. We'll instead have to watch to see how things go. Anyway, the drivers have been given the signal one more lap to go, so next time by, we'll receive the green flag and go back to racing, and that will be on lap number 120. So Dale Earnhardt is a leader. I don't know why Davey Allison moved ahead of Earnhardt and Wallace there for just a moment. He was not the first car out of the pit area and therefore should not be the leader. He has fallen back into fifth position right now. So Earnhardt is going to be the leader with Rusty Wallace second, then Bill Elliott, followed by Terry Labonte, and then Davey Allison. Dick?
Well, I'm with Dave Allison's pit. He is all the way at the far end of pit road, and that is proving to be a disadvantage for him. See, what happens here is Davey has to get out of the gas and slow down a whole lot to come into his pit. And what happened last time was, as he was doing that, about 10 cars just blew right by him on the way to their pit. As a result, they were also able to beat Davey out of pit road. Now, they selected this particular pit position because it has an opening, it's near the garage, and they wanted to have plenty of room to accelerate down pit road. But it's hurting them today. We have at least one more pit stop to go, very likely as many as two more pit stops to go, and these guys are at a disadvantage just because of where they're pitting.
Bob, I think the window has expanded. They should be able to make one more pit stop. We're completing lap number 120 this time. If you go 35 laps, you should be able to go 38. That's going to put you up to 155, and that's 33 laps from the end. Everybody should be able to make it on one more, but they all have to stop at least one more for sure, as Dick said.
The race is back under green at lap 120. Now we're going to see how strong Dale Earnhardt really is, and whether the Fords of Bill Elliott and Davey Allison are more superior. There is Allison. I mean, Elliott rather, moving to the inside. And let's see if he makes a pass on Rusty Wallace and Earnhardt. He's by Wallace. They go into the 33-degree banking of turn number 3, and Elliott has second position, at least for the moment, although Rusty is right alongside. Davey Allison also right there behind Rusty and Terry Labonte. Wallace. Yes, Wallace has the lead. That gives us our 13th lead change among 9 drivers.
Both Wallace and Earnhardt lead for the first time today.
Look at this, 2 abreast racing. Elliott, a little bit squirrely in turn number 2, settles down though. Here they come down the backstretch. It's Earnhardt.
Who can push whom the furthest, the farthest, the fastest?
Kyle Petty also showing some muscle there behind all of this. There is Kyle on the low side of the racetrack, below Lake Speed.
Davey Allison encouraging Dale Earnhardt along. Bill Elliott pushing Rusty Wallace, and Terry Labonte trying to pick a hole. Which lane is the faster?
Oh, it was too close to call. I think Wallace will get credit for leading that lap also, but it was close with Earnhardt.
Rusty washes high.
Look at Elliott. Elliott low side passes. Rusty though hanging right in there. Look at this great competition. Down the backstretch, Davey Allison is right on the back bumper of Bill Elliott. And now Allison goes for it on the low side. Look, oh, they almost touch. Unbelievable. Allison has the lead. Kyle Petty is coming on the low side.
Too good to talk about.
Boy, we got to settle down. We're still 68 laps away from the end of this race. Allison now begins to move away from the pack once again. I believe he is the dominant, the strong car, Larry.
He certainly appears to be, Bob. I'll tell you, on the last lap, it looked like that Elliott had designs of Davey following him through. I thought that wave was, you see Bill waving again, this time to Kyle, saying, follow me through, we will get underneath Rusty to go in the corner. And the last time that Bill did that, Davey dropped down low and just ran off and hid.
The respect that you have to have for your fellow competitor running that close, that fast.
What an interesting, important moment for Davey Allison. I agree, Bob. I would have thought, and about 50 laps ago, I was thinking in my mind, I think that Elliott has got this race. I still stand by that because experience really pays off, but in a crucial period in this race, one pit stop from the end, Davey Allison has shown to everybody, hey, guess what, fellas? The number 28 car is going to run up front here, and to win this race, I'm the one you got to beat.
Elliott, Bobby Hillin, and Kyle Petty now beginning to form a group. Here comes Terry Labonte to the inside of Dale Earnhardt at the end of the backstretch. And Terry Labonte moves to third.
Remembering back to Daytona, yes, Bill Elliott won the race. Yes, it would seem like that Bill Elliott had dominated, but remember there was a man who led Bill and definitely had the faster car than Bill at certain stages of the race. It was the black, white, gold, and orange trim number 28, Joey Knuckles, owned by Harry Renier and driven by Davey Allison, the guy who's streaking away. You saw him just go out of your picture quickly. He's not even in the group. He's way out front.
Davey Allison's last lap, 208.40 miles an hour.
208 miles an hour.
We invite you to stay tuned for Sports Center following the Winston 500, which of course is running way long because of our 2-hour and 38-minute delay because of a crash involving Bobby Allison. He was uninjured, but it tore down some fencing that they had to repair. Chris Berman will report on Dr. J's final basketball game on Sports Center. Join us for that right after the conclusion of the Winston Cup race.
Let me go back to something, Bob. 208 miles per hour you guys drew on that?
Yes.
208 would have put him about 15th on the grid, and that is a clean 2 or 3 miles an hour faster, I think, than most people would have liked this pace to be. Davey Allison is really giving them all something to shoot for.
Boy, he sure is. That is a strong race car, and we could very well again see this afternoon a first-time winner emerge from this race here in Talladega. There's a battle for second. It involves Rusty Wallace, Earnhardt, Bill Elliott, Terry Labonte, and Kyle Petty. All 5 of those right there, and so is Bobby Hillin.
Now remember, Rusty said, hey, this is it. I don't think there's any room for improvement. This is about the optimum that I can run. He is able to lead the pack, except he can't catch Davey Allison. But if that is true, that Rusty's car is about maxed out, that means that everybody is probably showing everything that they have. I doubt that any holds are being barred at this point in the race.
I'm a little surprised at Bill Elliott. He is content, for the moment at least, to settle there in 4th spot, although being challenged for that position by another Ford driven by Kyle Petty.
You know what, though, Bob? I'll tell you what. I'll stick with Elliott as the favorite in this race.
Well, I don't know about that. We'll see. Earnhardt passes Wallace for second. Here comes Kyle Petty challenging Bill Elliott. Earnhardt now second, Wallace third. Petty fourth, and Elliott fifth.
Just one quick comment about Dale Earnhardt. He's had 4 consecutive wins, and that ties a record. Nobody has ever won 5 races in a row except Richard Petty back in the previous era of NASCAR.
That last lap by Davey was even faster, 208.7 miles an hour. All right, 128 laps completed. We are 60 from the end of this race. It's time for us to get your predictions on who's going to win. Now, you people at home make your decision as who's going to win this race. We'll tell you who we think is going to win. Dick Bergeron, who?
Davey Allison. This is a racetrack for upsets, and right now, Bob, the way Allison is working, the way he's running, this is a very cohesive crew today. Davey Allison's my man right now.
Bill Elliott giving some hand signals to Terry Labonte as they come through the tri-oval. Here is Dr. Jerry Punch with his prediction.
Well, it'll be hard to argue with Davey Allison as possibly the guy to beat, but I'm in the Elliott pit, and I'm just not sure what Bill Elliott's doing. Let's find out. Come on, let's check with Ernie Elliott here, who's watching Bill. And Ernie, is Bill showing pretty much what he's got, or is there possibly a problem with the car?
It's just way too tight. We just can't run to the car that tight.
Well, the car is just too tight, meaning they cannot get the car to turn in the corner. The car pushing coming out of the corner. Maybe if they get a pit stop, as Larry Newber mentioned, that final fuel stop, maybe they can make a chassis adjustment, and we will possibly see Elliott make a move toward the front.
Well, maybe the car is loosening up a little right now because he's challenging Dale Earnhardt for that second position. He's on the low side of the racetrack as they come down the stripe. Let's see who wins this battle for second. Oh, Earnhardt by just a nose.
Bob, your pick.
I was going to ask you first.
Bill Elliott. I've gone on record already.
Okay, I think Davey Allison can win this race, unless, of course, something happens mechanically, but I think he has the car, and I think he has the ability to win this Winston 500.
It has ballooned to 5 seconds. It's been ballooning at about a rate of 3/4 of a second a lap.
And a pace even faster, 207.9. He's still in the 207 range, but each lap, it seems, he moves up a couple of tenths of a mile an hour. There he is, Davey Allison from nearby Hueytown, Alabama.
Let's cite the other strong runners. We're going to time Davey this time as we follow him around. Remember, it takes about 45, 46 seconds. Bobby Hillin Jr., Kyle Petty are still on the lead lap and threatening for the top 5, thundering around Talladega. Hillin Jr. and Kyle Petty have had strong days.
Bobby Allison, I'm sure, watching all of this. This will be somewhat of a consolation after his spectacular crash here on the main straightaway. Bobby Allison's, in which he was not injured, but it caused a delay of 2 hours and 38 minutes because of torn catch fencing that you see there on the left side of your screen. 100 feet of that came down as Allison's car got airborne and went right into that fencing, which kept it from going into the grandstand. Here's the lap, 45.9 seconds. Can you imagine encircling this racetrack, which is 2.66 miles in length, in that length of time? That, of course, is an unofficial time. That's how we have it on our stopwatches. But the speed translates, it's even quicker, 208.62 miles an hour. Unbelievable.
And the lead grows. It's now above 6 seconds. It grew another half a second on that lap.
As you can see, he just passed Phil Parsons, who was involved in that Allison crash and is back in the race, but 83 laps down, now make it 84 laps. look at the interval between first and second. Here comes second place Bill Elliott out of the fourth turn now. He now has second with Terry Labonte in third, followed by Dale Earnhardt, and then comes Rusty Wallace.
Several drivers entered today having never won here at Talladega. Among the strong runners who were non-winners, Jeff Bodine, Harry Gant, Terry Labonte. Benny Parsons has never won here at Talladega. Morgan Shepherd, who at times this year has shown some muscle. Rusty Wallace, and needless to say, Davey Allison. Elliott, he was the man to beat at Talladega, particularly in 1985. 1986, he was fast, but he was with a group of people, a group of very strong runners that included himself, Terry Labonte, Jeff Bodine, Harry Gant, Cale Yarborough, and Darrell Waltrip. Listen to those names. I'll say them again. Elliott, Labonte, Bodine, Gant, Yarborough, and Darrell. Their best combined finish among all of them last year, 21st, Harry Gant.
We're timing Bill Elliott. We have a car whose engine appears to be letting go just ahead of Bill Elliott. That's the Rick Wilson car, number 4. We continue to watch the action. We don't know whether or not it's going to necessitate a yellow flag. Harold Kinder has the yellow
Michael
in
Waltrip.
hand. It is Michael Waltrip, but it's not Rick Wilson. It's Michael Waltrip, whose car this weekend painted similarly to Rick Wilson's.
Yeah, painted that way, by the way, because we are told it is the base color of a potential sponsor that they are pitching.
No yellow. Michael Waltrip appears to be able to make it to the pit area. The pace car pulled out onto pit road, but is now backing back into its stall, and we will not have a caution. We have 53 laps to go as Waltrip limps to the pit area. Now Bill Elliott has really separated himself from third place Terry Labonte as Elliott's charge and the attempt to catch Davey Allison is continuing.
The lead has shrunk for the first time. It's down to 5 seconds. Bill Elliott moved up 1.7 seconds on a single lap. So Bill Elliott begins to come on. Bob, it's also time to bring up the Winston Million. Remember, Elliott won it 2 years ago. At the start of today's race, there were 40 drivers who had a shot at the Winston Million. Some better shot than others, of course. At the end of today's race, there will be only one. Well, there might be two. If Davey Allison wins this one, then both he and Bill Elliott. Remember, you have to win 3 of the big 4 races on the Winston Cup schedule. If Bill Elliott wins today, there will be only one who is a candidate for this year's Winston Million.
And there is Elliott, whose car now may be loosening up to the point of handling better and therefore running faster, because he is closing in on Davey Allison, but Allison still with a relatively healthy lead at this point.
The Ford Thunderbirds, at one time they were at a distinct disadvantage in terms of fuel mileage, but because of research and development, they seem to have caught up with the GM cars. It has something to do with water jackets that have been inserted around the pistons, which draw heat out of those pistons, allowing them to run cooler. They get better gas mileage. They seem to be on a par now with the General Motors product.
And Bill Elliott catch Davey Allison. Well, we're going to answer that question in the next few laps as the concluding laps of the Winston 500 are being played out here in late afternoon in Dixie, Alabama. Now NASCAR and an ESPN Track Fact. This Track Fact is brought to you by Robert Bosch Corporation, makers of Bosch Platinum, the ultimate spark plug.
After 2 shoulder injuries, Jeff Bodine changed the seat in his race car. Now, most seats only have support here in the torso area. When you hit the wall hard, pressure is all right here, and it can break ribs, and it can also cause a shoulder separation. But look what Bodine has done. He's put extra bracing here against which the shoulder can reside. That helps prevent shoulder injuries. In addition, he's also padded his shoulder harnesses. And if you're going to hit the wall at 200 miles an hour, you need all the padding you can get.
Bill Elliott is reeling in Davey Allison. He's reduced the interval between himself by about 2 seconds. Allison in the lead at the moment with Elliott running second. 138 laps complete. Stay with us for more. On a Sunday evening in Talladega, Alabama, the Winston 500 is being played out. It is Davey Allison leading Bill Elliott. The interval about 4 seconds. In third position is Terry Labonte. Fourth is Dale Earnhardt. And fifth is Bobby Hillin Jr. Here comes Labonte, Earnhardt, and Bobby Hillin Jr. That's how close that battle is.
The question, do they have lights at Talladega? Yes, it's natural.
Bill Elliott is low on the racetrack and may be finished. The Ford drops low.
Has nothing to do with fuel. Long ways away from the pit stop. Bill Elliott, is he braking? It looks like curtains for Elliott.
Very slowly down the backstretch now as Kyle Petty and others pass him. Let's go to Jerry Punch. What's going on, Jerry?
Well, a lot of dejection in the Coors pit for Bill Elliott. They think he may have dropped the valve, possibly lost a cylinder in the car. They're going to bring him down pit road. Ernie Elliott, Dan, and the crew waiting on him. They are very concerned that possibly they don't know what's wrong with the car. They're going to check it. Maybe they can get it fixed and get him back out.
A tough break for the winner of the Daytona 500 this year, Bill Elliott.
Bob, I'll tell you what was going on. We've been monitoring Davey and Bill every lap, and the lead was growing. Yes, I said growing. It had gone up to 6.3 seconds, then 6.7, almost 6.8. And what was going on is that Davey was forcing Bill to apparently run to the maximum. Yes, he was catching him, but he was absolutely flat out to do so, and it was just too strong of a pace for that Coors beer milling Ford to hold up.
He stays out there, but the car is definitely not up to its speed, and Bill Elliott is apparently not going to win this Winston 500.
And suddenly Davey Allison is a clear-cut favorite. We're late in the race. Nobody now, save for Bill Elliott, before this moment had shown the ability to run with Davey Allison. Only Terry Labonte, and that was several laps ago, and right now Terry is nowhere in sight.
There is Allison moving down the back stretch into turn number 3 once again. Let's go back inside the Rick Wilson car, sponsored by Kodak, and we thank Kodak for their promotional assistance and consideration in providing these tremendous pictures from there. Not only do they give us great pictures as far as still photography is concerned, but boy, some great shots from the Rick Wilson car. Thank you, Kodak.
Sterling Marlin directly behind.
Jerry, you got a confirmation on Elliott's problem?
Well, we have. Ernie Elliott has been on the headset with his brother Bill, and apparently they feel that what we speculated was correct, that they have indeed dropped the valve. They're on 7 cylinders, the engine running very sourly as he comes by. Each time he comes by, they pull the headsets off and listen and just shake their heads in dejection here in the Elliott pit.
He's still out there on the racetrack, but it's all over for Bill Elliott.
Bob, you start thinking about points as we continue to ride with Rick Wilson. You know what? Old Neil Bonnet is running on the lead lap. He's in 8th or 9th position, 8th position right now at this moment. He came into today 3rd in points behind Elliott and Earnhardt. Now, he's going to pick up some ground to Elliott. He's obviously going to lose out to Earnhardt, but Bonnet is having a really good year point-wise, isn't he? Bob Rahilly and Butch Mock must be very happy.
There are the standings. Earnhardt, of course, the leader in Winston Cup points with Elliott second, but Neil Bonnet in a strong 3rd position. Richard Petty also has accumulated over 1,100 points, and Ricky Rudd, who crashed with Harry Gant in this race earlier, is in 5th position in the Winston Cup standings. And there, once again, the best battle on the racetrack. That's Terry Labonte in number 11, Earnhardt in number 3, and Bobby Hillin Jr. in number 8. This is for 2nd position.
This has got to be, though, a psychological victory for everybody, particularly the man there 3rd in line, Bobby Hillin Jr. Finally, they are running with Earnhardt. Finally, he does not look invincible. It had to be depressing for a lot of the other top teams because for a number of weeks there, it seemed like even when they made mistakes, he won. And finally, today, they have caught him, and several people have been quicker.
He has won 6 of the first 8 Winston Cup races in 1987, including the last 4 consecutive. At Darlington, at North Wilkesboro, at Bristol, and at Martinsville. But it appears as if he may not be in a winning position here at Talladega this afternoon, although he's still very much in this race. But this group of 3 cars here, Labonte, Earnhardt, and Bobby Hillin, are way behind the leader, Davey Allison.
And remember, following up on that story about the Winston Million, we are going to have a second candidate. The winner of today becomes a candidate for the Winston Million. The man to win the Winston Million has to win at Charlotte in May, and then on Labor Day at Darlington, the track too tough to tame. If somebody can win 2 of those races, it is a $100,000 bonus.
And And Rusty Wallace is involved in a bit of a battle with Kyle Petty there for position. That's for 5th. Now that Lake Speed car there, number 83, he is down a lap and being shown in 12th position.
But the leader of those are down 1 lap, Bob. It's unfortunate Lake apparently lost out on a pit stop, but he's been running strong. The first guy 1 lap down.
So the evening is drawing nigh, although we still have maybe an hour and a half of sunlight left. We're definitely going to be able to finish this race, and we thank you for staying with us throughout this very long afternoon of auto racing here on ESPN. We'll be right back.
Final pit stop taking place for Terry Labonte. The crew rushing back across the wall. 37 laps to go. Labonte getting a push down pit road to the Budweiser Chevrolet. He should be able to make it the rest of the way on fuel. That pit stop for Terry Labonte. Let's go up pit road to Dick Berggren.
Davey Allison still is not here. They're ready for him. They anticipate his arrival at any moment. Allison has managed to go further on the racetrack. That is key. They are close. If they have to go all the way to making this thing, we still do not see Davey Allison on pit road, but he is due here momentarily.
Well, he's still in turn number 2 now on the backstretch, Dick. We'll see if he comes in this time around. Davey Allison, the leader of this race. Most everybody else has come in for their final pit stop.
Bob, they're right at the outer limit, and Allison, well, I thought he was slowing down, but I guess you just lose the illusion of speed when you watch him all day.
Well, he is slowing down to come into the pits, but I don't think he slowed down prematurely. Here he comes, Dick.
They're at the outer limit. I mean, the 38 laps is that window, and that's where they're at right now, 37, 38 laps. So the idea here is to get the car down as low as on fuel as you possibly can at the end, so it's light.
The crew goes to work, led by Joey Knuckles. They change rubber on the right side of the race car.
That's Joey leading the task force there on the right front tire. Let's see if he moves around to the left side. Flips the hose around. They're very happy. Apparently the balance of the car has been just perfect. It's been running smooth and fast. They did not change left side rubber. That's an indication that the car has been running flat level on the racetrack as it goes around the 33-degree banking.
17-second pit stop for Davey Allison. They should now be able to go to the rest of the way to the checkered flag. It might be Davey Allison in victory lane here, or it could be one of about 6 or 7 other cars and drivers that are still on the lead lap.
He got out significantly ahead of Terry Labonte. The two of them have made their final pit stops, and Davey has what amounts to a half-a-mile lead on Terry Labonte. He is exiting the backstretch, and right now Labonte is entering it.
There is Bill Elliott, whose car is being pushed behind the pit wall.
Well, Bill Elliott's getting pushed behind the pit wall. We'll try to get a quick comment with Bill if we can, as he's still in the car, going along the side here in the Coors Ford. Well, we're here with him. Bill, what happened out there to the car, Bill?
I don't really know. I think it dropped the valve.
Looked like you really had a good shot at it. Might have been you and Davey Allison as the 2 strongest cars in the field.
I don't feel like I got to beat Davey. Davey was running too good.
Is there anybody that can handle him at all now?
Oh, not a soul.
Well, that sums it up right there. It looks like it's going to be Davey's afternoon. Bill Elliott.
All right, thank you, Jerry, and thank you, Bill, for taking time out to talk with us. I know that sentiments aren't too good at this time, but there will be better days for Bill Elliott, we know. So Bill thinks that nobody can touch Davey Allison, that if his car holds together, Davey Allison is going to win his very first Winston Cup race. Will he? We'll stay with us and we'll answer that question now this break.
Well, according to the pit crew at Davey Allison's bunch, they are rock solid to go all the way. Joey Knuckles says no problems going all the way. By the way, if they win today, it'll be Joey Knuckles' first win ever as a Winston Cup crew chief. It'd be Davey Allison's first win ever as a Winston Cup driver. This pit crew is very tense right now. They are anticipating their first victory.
Very interesting situation. Davey Allison headed for Winston Cup win number 1. Joey Knuckles as crew chief headed for Winston Cup win number 1. Bobby Allison had a brush with, well, fate. Yeah, it was really scary. His accident here in the Tri-Oval about 20 laps into this race. The car airborne going upside down in the catch fencing. The car never really going over, but the bottom part of the race car hit the catch fencing. It went back onto the racetrack, spun around several times, was hit by a couple of cars. Bobby Allison climbed out okay. A couple of spectators were injured with flying debris. They've been taken to a hospital, but hopefully no serious injuries to those spectators. It did cause a red flag for more than 2.5 hours.
Bob, Joey has been with the team for quite some time. He's got a lot of years of experience in races won with Cale Yarborough, but it is a big moment when you're the man in charge and you finally get your first win. Jerry is right now down in the pits with another update about the King.
Well, Richard Petty overcome by fumes in the car. Earlier in that early lap accident, he had the cooler in the rear end come out of the car, and so they've been having trouble keeping grease in the rear end. They had fumes coming up in the car. He literally was overcome with it. You see he's okay, just getting a cold cloth, a little bit of oxygen there on the ground. They have put Greg Sachs in the car as Richard Petty now getting some help from the paramedics and safety crews here at the Alabama International Motor Speedway.
Well, it's a warm and humid evening here in Alabama. And Eastern time, it's approaching 7:30. We still have 30 laps to go in this race. Allison completes lap number 159. By the way, Darrell Waltrip has been lapped in car number 17. There are now 9 cars on the lead lap. Let's go back down to the pit area.
Richard Petty sitting up now. Richard, paramedics have got some cold cloths on him, trying to get Richard, are you all right? Are you okay, Richard?
Yeah, I got gassed up. What happened when we blew that tire after Bobby wrecked, knocked all our inner panels out from under the rear end of it, and all the exhaust is coming up in the car. And I told Elliott, I wasn't tired, I was drunk. I couldn't tell where I was at, so I got dizzy. I'm all right.
Well, that's what happens with carbon monoxide from beneath the car. You just simply go to sleep, and so he was getting sleepy. They got him out of the car as a safety move, and now they put Greg Sachs in the machine.
But the King still hangs in there after all of these years. And there is Greg Sachs in the Richard Petty car as Davey Allison has gone underneath and put another lap on that machine.
Remember that Richard, there you see Richard's car, the old faithful number 43 with Greg Sachs now behind the wheel. Richard finished second at Bristol on another ESPN televised race earlier this year. Greg Sachs, the man originally from Mattituck, Long Island in New York, who had that surprise victory in the Firecracker 400 in July down in Daytona 2 years ago, is substituting for Richard Petty.
This is Davey Allison's 6th Winston Cup race of the year. And his 13th career start. Let's go back down to Dick Berggren, who is with a very nervous individual. Dick?
Well, I am with Deborah Allison. Deborah, how do you feel at this moment?
Very nervous.
That's what they said on top. What are you thinking at this point? What's going through your mind?
I'm trying not to get too excited, but I just hope he can do it. I just hope he stays out front.
But you've been here before when your husband has won at Talladega. You've been here before when Davey has won at Talladega.
I was here when he won the ARCA race, but this is just great. I mean, this is just so much better.
Crash in turn 2.
We've got a problem in turn 2.
A car sliding to the bottom of the racetrack. I believe that's Ken Reagan, is it not?
Yeah, Kenny Reagan, number 77. Did not see it develop. There was some flame as the car was coming down the banking. Apparently, it has snuffed out. Now, the interesting move here is, if there is a move by everybody, will everybody pit? Will people try to make last-minute adjustments in an effort to catch Davey Allison? Will Davey come in? Are they completely happy? Have they saved one set of tires? We have seen many Winston Cup races won at this very moment. One car is dominant, everybody pits late in the race, and somebody, usually one of the veteran crews, pulls a rabbit out of their hat.
Lap 164, and regardless of any adjustments in the pit area, it is going to bunch up the field, and Davey Allison is going to have a rear view mirror full of Terry Labonte and Bobby Hillin Jr. and Kyle Petty and Dale Earnhardt.
25 laps to go. Looks like everybody is looking down low. They'll all be coming here to pit lane. Now, what if Davey Allison, Joey Knuckles and crew, they're not the first one out? Will he still have the oomph to get around everybody? Darrell Waltrip momentarily caught up behind him. He probably forgot for just a couple of seconds there that Davey pitted down near turn number 4.
They're going to put new tires on the right side of the car. That car working very well, but Davey apparently thinks it can go faster there. Meanwhile, there's some work being done on the Terry Labonte Jr. Johnson car as Labonte is on the bottom and Allison on the top of your screen. Now they're changing, rubber on both sides. Junior Johnson himself doing some work on the passenger side of the windshield on the Terry Labonte car. Davey Allison's work is completed. He goes back out there. Terry Labonte remaining, though, in the pit area. There he goes.
Excuse me, Bob. All of Joey's years, look at there. Earnhardt beats them out of the pits. They beat Hill and Jr. out, but Dale Earnhardt is the first one out of the pits. All of Joey Knuckles' years of experience paid off over the years with Cale Yarborough. Obviously, there was no choice. He had to change the tires because they figured everybody else would. He had to go with new rubber.
A yellow flag is out, the 9th caution period of the afternoon, because of an incident up in turn number 2 involving Ken Reagan. The crowd remains for the finish of the Winston 500. Some ESPN and Bill Elliott racing fans here at Talladega. Elliott has dropped from competition. He will not win here today. Well, NASCAR, we understand, has just announced that in 10 more laps this race will end, and that is because, I assume, of darkness. It will be 10 laps from the point of the green flag. It is getting rather dark here, but we're only 21 laps away from the official finish of the race, but they say in 10 green laps, and it will be ending.
Boy, that really does scramble everybody's mind just a bit, because Davey Allison was sitting back there thinking, hey, I know I've had the superior car today. I've got 20 laps. I can take my time. In 10 laps, you don't have to rush it, but you can't take your time either. You got to attack right away. And then the question becomes for people like Terry Labonte and Rusty Wallace is right now in 3rd. As we're looking at Kenny Reagan, remember Kenny Reagan had a serious back injury. He broke his back in a motor crash a couple of years ago. But back to the leaders, has somebody gotten one of those magic set of tires? And will a car that has not been the superior machine today suddenly emerge? Could it be Kyle Petty? Earnhardt now comes out of the pits on the pole. Neil Bonnet has remained on the lead lap. So is Kenny Schrader. They're still having trouble keeping that front end taped down. And Dave Marcus tenaciously held on to the lead lap. Bobby Hillin Jr., the cars in the lead lap, will be on the outside row.
One more lap and we'll go back to green, and then 10 green laps and this race will come to an end. That's Dale Earnhardt on the high side.
Now, in case you're wondering, everybody's got radio, so NASCAR's checked with all of the crews, made a special effort to get to everybody and say, tell your driver, when we go green, 10 laps, everybody knows exactly what the situation is.
And that will be 10 laps, not necessarily 10 green laps, but when the green flag drops, 10 laps from that point and the race will be over, even if we have a caution. So you can bet that Davey Allison is going to be going to the front in case there is another accident or something that would cause a yellow to come out for those remaining laps.
Wow. I tell you, this is an unusual situation, and it does put a lot of pressure on the drivers, particularly the younger drivers like Davey Allison and Bobby Hillin Jr. But for Davey, who is so hungry to break the bubble, to get into that first ever Winston Cup win, hopefully Joey's on the radio to him saying, okay, son, we think we got the best car. Just take your time. Don't waste any laps. Don't make any mistakes. Just follow Dale on the restart. Don't make any sudden moves on Morgan. Follow Dale into the first turn and pick him off going down the backstretch maybe the second time around.
If ever there was an important restart to an auto race, this is it, ladies and gentlemen. As Dale Earnhardt has the lead, Davey Allison right on his tail in second position, coming down for the green flag, and then 10 more laps to go. Earnhardt mashes the accelerator and the pace picks up. The green is out.
Great start, Davey.
Allison right on the rear bumper of Dale Earnhardt as they go into one. Let's see when and if Davey makes a move. He's looking high in turns 1 and 2. Earnhardt also drifts high. Off the second corner, down the flat backstretch at Talladega, Allison makes the move to the inside. He's got him. Allison goes into the lead.
Is Allison quick today or not? Now, all Davey's got to do is Rusty moving up to challenge Dale Earnhardt. All Davey's got to do, he's got the machine. Just get out front, Davey. Grab yourself about 10 car lengths and enjoy the racing behind you.
9 laps
Bobby
to go.
Hillin Jr. Bobby Hillin Jr. has moved into third. Now he pressured Earnhardt for second.
Bobby Hillin Jr. running right alongside Terry Labonte. Okay, let's get an update on the condition of Ken Reagan, who crashed over in turn 2. Nick?
Bob, I've just left the infield care center where they say he has a possible broken leg. Other than that, he is just fine. He is alert. He is talking to everybody. Possible broken leg, only extent of injury on Ken Reagan.
Terry Labonte moves into second position. Earnhardt back to third. But now Davey begins to open up the advantage just a little bit. That's Bobby Hillin Jr. in fourth.
Kyle Petty is another car on the lead lap. He's in double file right now. That's Kyle on the low side. You see the red on the hood. That's him trying to get around lap traffic. Lake Speed is in there. Lake's still running strong, but he's a lap down. Darrell Waltrip is right in there also. Darrell, one of the leading lap cars, but no chance to win.
There's the leader, Davey Allison. Second, Labonte. Third, Earnhardt. Fourth, Hillin. Fifth, Rusty Wallace.
Davey Allison, no doubt, calling on some of the experience that he gained in winning ARCA races on this racetrack. Takes that, well, you want to call it a Neil Bonnet line or a Grant Adcox line down the backstretch, snaking down the back straightaway, making sure that nobody is gaining that unfair advantage, picking up on the wind that Davey is breaking. Davey is saying to everybody behind him, hey guys, do your own work. I'm out here all by myself. I'm trying to win this race. I don't want your help. I don't want to give any of mine to you.
7 laps to go. 207.90, the pace set by Davey Allison as he leaves everybody in his trail. Davey has finished in the top 10 twice this year. He finished 9th at Rockingham and 5th at Atlanta. This could be his very first Winston Cup win. There's the battle for second. 4 cars involved.
Allison, his best 85 finish, 10th here at Talladega. His best 86 finish, 7th here at Talladega. His best 87 finish, not determined yet.
Allison crosses the stripe. 6 to go.
Attention begins to focus to the jockeying for second. What a terrific race this would be for the win if it weren't for Davey. Earnhardt does not have the strongest car in that group, but he is an outstanding motor racing driver. Dale Earnhardt is tremendous. He is carrying this car. Not that it's limping, but right now Wallace and Terry Labonte are faster, and it looks like Bobby Hillin Jr. is also faster. Remember, Bobby is so good on this racetrack. Earnhardt with the weaker car, but because of deft driving and picking just the right spots on the racetrack, he remains a potential for runner-up.
Earnhardt's streak may be ending here this afternoon. He's won 4 consecutive Winston Cup races. He's third right now and being challenged heavily by Bobby Hillin Jr. There are 5 laps to go around this 2.66-mile racetrack that has provided just about everything you could expect in auto racing for us this afternoon. And there's a great ARCA race that was run here yesterday that will be on ESPN May 23rd. We want to urge you to watch that race.
Earnhardt gesturing to Bobby Hillin Jr. behind him. Don't know exactly what it was. It did not look like, hey, come follow me. Not a Crispin St. Peter move.
2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 right here. They're all following Davey Allison. Here he comes through the tri-oval once again. There are 4 laps to go in the Winston 500. The crowd is cheering Davey Allison as he flashes by the start-finish line.
Terry Labonte, his best finish in 1987 so far, a man that many people felt would be the favorite to win this year's championship, has been a 4th so far this year. Traditionally, Terry has known how to finish up front in all the Winston Cup races. Traditionally, Kyle Petty going high. Traditionally, Junior Johnson's cars the finish. That's why everybody thought he must have the inside track to the championship. They didn't count on Dale Earnhardt being bulletproof.
Earnhardt was a little squirrely, it appeared, up in turns 1 and 2 on the last lap around.
He's carrying the car, Bob. I think that Dale is really working hard.
3 more laps to go. Allison still in command of this race. But a tremendous battle involving Terry Labonte, Dale Earnhardt, Bobby Hillin Jr., Kyle Petty, and Rusty Wallace for second, through 6th position.
Now at this moment, everybody's 2nd, 3rd, 4th on back. They have to begin to position themselves.
Look at Kyle.
Kyle, I think, is doing just that. He made the same move on this lap that he made the last lap. But they all have to start calculating. Now, Terry hasn't given up on winning yet, but it's beginning to look a long ways away. There's Kyle going to the inside of Hillen. But each of them has to decide, where do I want to be on the last lap? Don't count out Rusty Wallace. He still definitely has a shot at the runner-up spot.
And now there are just 2 more laps to go. The interval between 1st and 2nd is closing. Labonte is catching Davey Allison. We could have a contest for the lead, let alone 2nd place.
I sense that Davey is being extra special careful, Bob. He has a 2-lap advantage. He can get out of the throttle by maybe a 1/16 of an inch. That's probably stretching it, but Davey can cool it just a bit. Maybe this is a veteran-type move. This is an experience-type move. Maybe. Let's see.
There you see Bobby Hillen and Rusty Wallace running side by side in turns 3 and 4 coming through. Here comes a white flag from Harold Kinder.
When he crosses the stripe, 2.6635 miles to go.
His wife hoping that Davey can hang on for one more lap. And Joey Knuckles, the young crew chief on this car, may be winning his first Winston Cup event ever.
No conversation. Joey just looking down, checking the stopwatch, checking the chart. He's making sure they've done everything right. Anything to keep your mind off of the emotion. Davey Allison, a half a lap to go.
Let's watch and see if Davey Allison can win the Winston 500. He's in turns 3 and 4. He's on to the tri-oval, a short straightaway connecting turn 4 and the dog leg here in front of the grandstand. He's a few feet away from the checkered flag. There it is, Davey Allison wins. Terry Labonte finishes 2nd. And Dale Earnhardt finished 4th. He was passed by the number 21 car of Kyle Petty as they came down. So Kyle Petty picks up 3rd and Earnhardt drops to 4th. Then Bobby Hillen Jr. and Rusty Wallace.
The sweetest victories are the first-time winners.
What is it about Talladega that produces these first-time winners?
The high sign from Dale Earnhardt. He leaned out the window and gave the okay sign to Davey. He said, young man, you drove yourself one heck of a race.
There's Joey Knuckles receiving the congratulations from the people in the pits. And the spectators are cheering Davey Allison as he has his hand in the air.
Davey Allison has had a shot at a couple of other races this year. He's had a couple of crashes that he's had to survive. He's been fast every time out. They opened everybody's eyes when they debuted with a rookie driver at Daytona. They qualified on the front row. He has a pole already in 1987, and now he has a win. Davey Allison has qualified for the 2 special races in NASCAR for 1987. He has put his name into the record books along with his father.
It's a happy victory lane here in Talladega, USA, and our winner interview is being brought to you by the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. No matter how far you go, Goodyear takes you home. Let's go to victory lane.
We got Davey Allison in victory lane and getting his 5th win here at Talladega, Alabama, trying to get unhooked, and the crew absolutely mobbing him. He's still shaking hands on the other side of the car. Davey trying to get unhooked, and Davey, a tremendous race. Congratulations.
I'll tell you, Jerry, this Haviland Motor Oil special here, I'm going to tell you what, this thing just been awesome all day. These guys did a super job on this car, and I could do anything I wanted to with it. I'm going to tell you what, I'm just tickled to death.
Well, Bill Elliott said he thought he was the only one that possibly could handle you as he's trying to look for his cap. There he gets the sponsor mark put on his head, and they're still celebrating. Davey, it looked like possibly you and Bill Elliott were the only 2 that could run together out there.
Oh, Bill, he was pretty strong right there at the first of the race, and I just tried to ride along with him and keep my car ready for the end of the race. And there toward the middle, everybody started running side by side, and it let me get away. let me just take it easy on the car all day, and that saved it for the end. And I'm going to tell you what, this Allen Motor Oil Racing team they're the best, I'm telling you what.
Well, they're pumped out here. Not only does he win the Winston 500, he now is the newest entry into Winston, the richest race per mile in NASCAR, coming up in a couple of weeks, $600,000, and he bumps Buddy Baker from that race. Davey Allison climbs from the car. The fortunes of the Allison family celebrating in victory lane.
Well, champagne all over the place, but happiness in the victory lane area as Davey Allison wins, followed by Terry Labonte. Kyle Petty was third, Dale Earnhardt was fourth, and Bobby Hillin Jr. finished in fifth position. Just a tremendous race here this afternoon at Talladega. And it began a real busy month as far as motorsports is concerned here on ESPN. Today's Winston 500 has been brought to you by the heartbeat of America, today's Chevrolet. By Kodacolor VRG Film, unsurpassed color and print film, Kodacolor VRG Film, the color of life. And by the 20-mile-a-day comfort of Red Wing shoes and boots. Our congratulations again to Davey Allison. For Larry Newber, Dick Bergman, and Jerry Punch, this is Bob Jenkins. So long, everyone.